I'm looking at the clock. Almost. Hello, hello. Hello, Happy New Year to you. I'm just looking at the clock.
That one's mine.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Town of Highland Beach Town Commission meeting, Tuesday, January 7th, 2020, at 1:30 p.m. in the Commission chambers. Kindly silence your cell phones. But before we begin the meeting today, I just would like to say a special thank you to all of our staff, because in December we really didn't have any meetings. And we had the holidays, we had Light Up the Holidays, and we had, a wonderful turnout for our celebration. And I really feel we have to give a lot of kudos to our town staff. And even though we were all on holidays, we have our water plant and people in the town that are still working around the clock. So I think it's very important that we remember all of our, and of course our fine policemen. I'm looking at, Chief Hartman, and I understand also from the community that the police presence at the church was very well received, and I want to thank the chief for making sure that our St. Lucy's Church is protected in the climate that this country's in these days. Anyway, we will continue, and at this point we will say roll call, please.
Commissioner David.
Present.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Here.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bobby.
Present.
Mayor Zelniker.
Here.
Town Attorney Tercivia.
Here.
And Town Manager Labadie.
Present.
Thank you.
Today we'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, especially for our young men and women who are now going over to Iraq. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, commissioners, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, I have a suggested change,
Sure.
which I spoke to Marshall and Linelda about. My presentation is, I think, 12B, and almost all of the topic is the same as 9A, so it's kind of silly for us to do it twice.
Okay.
So one of the things we thought about is we could just kick off 9A, and I'll just speak first and make my presentation part of it so we can kind of save everybody some time.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as is without 9A?
Well, you wanted it to be
You want it to be
9AA
9A?
specifically, correct?
It could be 9AA before the ordinance.
You want it
Thank you.
9AA?
Yes, 9AA.
I move that we accept the agenda as, with Greg's
Revision?
addition as 9AA.
Thank you.
And we'll remove 12B. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Second, aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Town Clerk, we need the Civility pledge, please.
We will be respectful of one another even when we disagree. We will direct all comments to the issue. We will avoid personal attacks. Politeness costs so little, by Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, now we have a community greening, a nonprofit organization presentation. I refer this item to Commissioner Gossett-Seidman.
Yes, thank you. Recently, I attended a DAR meeting, and these gentlemen made a presentation there, and I thought, wow, bingo, these would be really great to take into consideration for Highland Beach. They're actively working on creating broader tree canopies throughout the county and beyond. They've done amazing work in some of the blighted neighborhoods of the county where they don't have a large volume of trees, which, when you think about it, doesn't lend itself to a very warm environment for kids to play or keeping a home cool. So I let the guys speak for themselves, but I think they have quite a bit to offer to Highland Beach and the whole county. Thank you.
Okay, and now we have Mark Cassini and Matt Shipley is present from the community greening to give their presentation to us. Thank you very much. I've been talking about this for years.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having us, Peggy, and thanks for having us to Highland Beach. So my name is Mark Cassini, and this is Matt Shipley. Is this the clicker here? Yes. Okay, great. So a few years ago, we started a nonprofit called Community Greening. It's an urban forestry nonprofit. We are members of the Arbor Day Foundation, Alliance for Community Trees. And we started in Delray Beach. And the whole reason of it was really to get people engaged into improving the environment. So, I mean, pretty much everyone right now is worried about where the environment's at, where it's going, and what are things we can do to improve our community's livability and sustainability and resilience. And one of those ways that we can do that is by planting trees. And the science is out there more and being able to quantify the benefits of what trees do for us. And I think probably everyone here is aware of it, but they reduce the temperatures of whether it's, of our houses or of the streets where we are, where the kids are playing in the schoolyards. They can provide food to food insecure neighborhoods. They can also improve home values, and then they also have a lot of positive mental health benefits. They reduce flooding. The list really kind of goes on and on. The health benefits, even like as far as asthma rates, and there's a nationwide campaign to really plant trees where there's a low tree canopy. So some of those things correspond with overdevelopment. Some of them correspond with neighborhoods of low incomes. So we really focus on the areas of those two areas where there's low tree canopy and when there's lower incomes. And so we have different programs in helping people get their tree canopy up. And there's ways to assess the tree canopy. So like in Delray Beach, we have a 23% tree canopy. A lot of communities are trying to go for 40%. You can kind of see in this slide here of different communities and what their goal is. So you can get your tree canopy assessed, so at least gives you a baseline of where you're at. And then they can tell you about plantable space based on who owns the space and where you can put trees in. So it's not just guessing on, hey, we'd like to have a 50% tree canopy, but you don't even have the space to do that. So the tree canopy assessment gives you what a goal is. Delray Beach is doing, this is to be determined, but they have a goal of 27% now, which to go from 23 to 27% is 10,000 trees in the next 5 years. So it's quite a few trees to be able to get your tree canopy up. And that's when a 40% tree canopy goal is really where you start seeing a lot of those benefits that we were talking about, what you're trying to get to. So Boynton just had theirs done by the Green Infrastructure Center, University of Virginia. They found they have a 19% canopy. They have yet to determine their goal. So West Palm has gotten theirs done. It's really kind of gives us a roadmap onto how many trees we need to plant and which neighborhoods they need to be planted at. So We have 5 different programs. I'll let Matt talk a little bit about how we're actually getting the trees in the ground and how we're engaging the community to do that. So, here's the clicker.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, commissioners and mayor, for having us, and to the public. I'm born and raised in Delray Beach, so it's really nice for me to be able to do this work here in my hometown and also in Florida. So the different ways that we've been able to actually get the trees in the ground is through these programs. So we have public parks and plantings and schools. So we'll actually go to a school and plant trees on the school with volunteers or people from the school. Same thing with the parks. We invite volunteers from all over the communities to come out and plant trees with us. And we like to make it a party. We had to kind of give it a South Florida style, so we try and have a really good time. A lot of people don't necessarily just want to do the right thing here, but if you give them the opportunity to do it and have it be fun, then you can get them out. So we'll usually have a DJ and some good food to have at the end of it, and it really does connect a lot of people that probably would never have met each other before. Another one of our favorites is the urban orchards, and that's actually flipping a lot that's not going to be developed into a fruit tree grove where people can actually go and pick from the fruit trees whenever they see ripe fruit. So it's free for anyone to go to. They can go pick it for their family or for their friends, whatever it is. But this is really helpful in those low-income communities when they don't actually have the resources to go out and get fresh fruit that costs a lot of money. The neighborhood and residential plantings, those are through certain grants that we have. And residents can actually call us up and request a free tree for their home. So we actually assess the home, we do the 811 call, and we go out to their home and plant the tree with our volunteers. On the bottom is the youth tree team, and that's actually us hiring local youth from the low-income communities to take care of the trees, plant the neighborhood and residential trees, and also go through this kind of green jobs training so they can find out the different work that they can do throughout their life in terms of green jobs. So whether it's a sustainability officer or somebody running a tree trimming service or a landscape architect, those are different things that they learn about so that they can get those jobs later in life, because there's a lot of skills that are lacking these days. A lot of the people that we work with say that they're lacking in employees. So we're kind of trying to funnel the youth from these low-income communities into those jobs. And then also we do tree giveaways. So that's where we actually just set up shop somewhere and give away 100 to 200 trees for anyone who comes, first come, first serve. Usually there's a very long line of people waiting before we even get started. So these programs actually came out of what the neighborhoods wanted and what we found out to be the best ways to bring up the tree canopy. So we've been having a great time since we started, and we've been working from Boca to West Palm. We have done some plantings in Deerfield as well, but we've planted almost 3,500 trees in the past 3 years, and it seems to be that we'll be planting more and more each year, so that's great news for us. These are just some of the examples of the different programs that we have, some pictures from the different events. We've done probably close to 100 events in the past 3 years, and it's always a good time. Like I said, we're trying to make it a lot of fun. This is right here, or not right here, but close by in Delray Beach. If you notice the big building across from 95, that's the old carpet building that's painted kind of like a building. This is on the east side of 95. You can see 2 tiki huts and then these 75 fruit trees for the community to go pick from. And the fruit ranges from avocado to guava to then also very culturally appropriate fruit trees like sugar apple, soursop, jackfruit, and the list kind of goes on, lychee, pomegranate. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But it's great because the people who are requesting these trees, they remember from their culture, from the places that they came from before they moved here. So it makes them very happy. And also my favorite is that they get to show their kids how to actually pick fruit from a tree instead of just getting it from a store. This is just some of the site designs from our last urban orchard that we did in West Palm Beach off of Henrietta Boulevard. And that's also very similar. 50 fruit trees for the community to go pick from whenever they see ripe fruit. These are some of the youth from this past summer's youth tree team. And so we had them, they were hired for $10 an hour, and they were working throughout the summer every day. And that's one of the residential trees that they planted for one of the residents in the Set, which is the northwest, southwest neighborhoods of Delray. It's an example of our tree giveaways. They're a lot of fun. Like I said, we usually have a DJ to get people to come. We'll set up shop usually in a low-income neighborhood so that the people that live around there can actually walk to the spot to pick up their trees instead of having to get in a car and drive. That's a good picture of our youth tree team over the summer. And then we like to do a lot of education similar to this. So we're happy to go around and do talks like we did at DAR and just kind of spread the word and talk about the importance of planting and caring for trees in our neighborhoods. Because really our green areas and our medians and our parks and our beach and the green spaces that we have, that really is our nature. So improving those areas for all of the benefits is really beneficial for communities, municipalities, cities, and our county. We partner with all kinds of people, lots of different nonprofits, lots of after-school programs, and we're supported by some wonderful foundations in the area like the Community Foundation and the Children's Services Council. So we do have some good funding to do some of the things, but we work very strongly with the different municipalities to achieve their goals of how many trees they want to see in their cities. And I'll let Mark kind of talk a little bit about how we track all of our trees, and we'll try and wrap it up.
So, yeah, one thing that is helpful for us and for the people we're working with is trees can be quantified, their benefits that they're giving. So as far as like the carbon they're capturing, the energy they're reducing, stormwater, and the air quality that they're improving. So we use this database. Every tree that we plant is tracked in this. You can go to our website and see all the different dots by the species and their lifetime value. And then we'll give those, like the sustainability manager of a city will ask at the end of the year, how many trees did you plant in our city and what is the value to the residents of our city. So that's nice that technology is out there now to have that basically using U.S. Forest Service calculations that, and you can, and for people, you can go and actually click on the tree that you planted and see it, and you can share that URL with anyone. So it's getting a lot of positive press. It's a really kind of feel-good story for everyone. We said it was kind of like during election season, it's kind of like kissing a baby to come plant a tree with us, and we always get a lot of the politicians out when it's time to run, and throughout the year, of course. But and then just getting, I think, like Matt's saying, our South Florida style is getting noticed nationwide. Really trying to make it a fun community event, getting local barbecue, local DJ, and having people have fun while they're planting trees. We're really modeling this after programs nationwide. There's groups that have been doing this, like in LA and Baltimore, Chicago. They've been doing this since really like late 70s, early 80s. When we called up Arbor Day and said we wanted to set one up in South Florida, we were the first ones in Palm Beach County, and there isn't one in Broward either. So there's really a group, which is the city of Miami has a group doing it. Million Trees Miami, funded by the Knight Foundation. There's Tampa Bay, which is pretty small, and then there's one in Greenscape of Jacksonville. So there's really not much in Florida, whereas, nationwide it's been going on for a few decades, so it's nice for us because we're able to just go visit those places in the Bay Area in California or go to Atlanta, and they have staff of 40 people. We have a staff of 5 people. It started with Matt and I 3 years ago. But we can really just model our programming off of that. So we get sponsorships to help kind of subsidize what we get in designated grants. And then we have our annual fundraiser, always celebrating Florida's Arbor Day. And people can go to our website and dedicate a tree. This is our last year. We raised about $350,000. This year we should get up to about $500,000. And like from those different funders, mostly from foundations and from agency grants, really 10% of it maybe from cities. And that's pretty much who we are, and we really appreciate the invite. We're kind of working hand in hand with everyone, and Highland Beach is right next door, so we'd like to be working here too eventually. Yeah.
Could you let the audience and the commission know what you're doing with the seaside communities and sort of pulling them together in a
Sure.
resiliency?
Yeah, that's something we're working on with the Florida Forest Service, and it's really to get the cities that have already done their tree canopy assessment, which is Boynton is getting it done, and West Palm. We're working on a proposal to get Delray, Highland Beach. Well, we'd like to add Highland Beach. It's really such a small square mileage, it would be easy to add. And then Lantana and Lake Worth Beach and Riviera Beach. So we could have a whole corridor of knowing what our tree canopy is and where we really need to be focused on in planting. So yeah, that would be starting in early 2021. Yeah.
And then the other matter is to address that you've got access to many sources of funding and grants and so forth, which could be of use to our smaller community. We're 3 miles along A1A, so if you could address that too. Thank you.
Yeah, it would really, knowing what the tree canopy is and what the interest is of working with the city, like we work with the city of Boca Raton to do tree giveaways, the same with Lake Worth. It's good to, if you're celebrating Earth Day, to have, something in that, whether it's a tree planting in a park or tree giveaways. So we're working with cities, I don't know about the urban orchard, but we work with cities to do the urban orchard because it's on city property. So Boynton Beach, it's at Sarah Sims Park. West Palm Beach, Delray, yeah. So, we're working hand in hand with foundations and with city staff.
Okay, are there any questions from our commissioners?
Thank you. It sounds like you're doing a really important job. How would you recommend that we become part of this in Highland Beach? What do you think we should do here?
I think a good way to start is really with a tree giveaway, to engage and promote and kind of get people excited about trees. In Boca, when they did their first one, they had a line 200 people long, and that was before the event even started. That's, if the city is behind it and supporting tree giveaways, I think that's what that's the same thing, Lake Worth, how they got started, Boynton Beach, how they got started with us. And then getting your tree canopy assessed, if we can get that included in that gives you a roadmap to where you need them and where you're at now.
What's an approximate cost of a tree giveaway?
A tree giveaway, $4,000. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Donaldson, any comments?
Yes, thank you. Very laudable. We enjoy having our citizens participate in nonprofits and trying to do what they can to help improve the community. I can tell you from my own experience, we used to have a beautiful tree canopy in Highland Beach. I've been running up and down A1A for 30 years. And running through Highland Beach used to be one of my favorite spots. It was lush, it was green, we had a great canopy. We don't have that anymore. We lost it. We've had storms, we've had disease, we've had just a variety of things that have happened, and we've just lost it. We mounted an effort to significantly improve that, and the referendum that some of us supported was just absolutely overwhelmingly defeated. So I'm very concerned about the kind of mixed signals we're sending out there in our community. Either we're going to get behind things like this or we're not. The citizens so far have indicated they don't want to do this kind of thing. They don't want to pay for it. They don't want to see it. They fought it tooth and nail, including a lot of people who are on this commission right now. We're staring down the throat at FDOT improvements again. A lot of people ask for more time to develop those plans. We've had a year. We haven't done a single thing, and it's coming up on us again. So I wish you luck. I'm solidly behind this, but the citizens of the town have got to get behind some initiatives to get this done. So far, I haven't seen that in Highland Beach, and I'm sorely disappointed. So thank you and good luck.
Yeah, we'll be here for a while, so hopefully we get it behind us.
Commissioner Gossett-Simon?
Yes, thank you. And in fact, I was coming here as a kid in the 70s, and we used to have, not as good as Gulfstream, but we used to have a pretty substantial tree canopy all up and down the 3 miles. And there's still a few homes from that era that are there, have not removed their trees, but I think we have a code that states for every tree removed, one new one must be planted, and that really has not been enforced. Pretty much lots have been leveled, and then new palm trees and shrubs, many of them non-native, were installed. So this was just an advantage to get you all out and possibly give us some ideas, and we appreciate it. We do, in fact, want to move forward and enforce our codes and look at having a better green spot here in the town, we used to have a designation from the Arbor Association as a national tree city. We had a little plaque coming into town. This is about 8 years ago, and I don't know what happened, and that sort of fell away. So I think we've got a good group of people who want to move back to that era, and I thank you guys very much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Vice Mayor?
Thanks for coming. I a part of a tree giveaway from Commissioner Gossett-Seidman, who gave us, my kids, 2 palm trees, and they were so excited to plant it, and they did, and now they're huge. So the whole point of this is not just for the public spaces, though. It could be for people's residences as well, right?
Right,
It's encouraging
yeah.
people to do things on their own property.
Exactly.
So maybe that awareness alone, separate from referendum or anything for the public areas, maybe that awareness alone helps.
Yes. Okay, I just would like to make you aware of a couple of things. We have private property in Highland Beach. It's private property, and ours is a unique situation. As Peggy said, when the people put together our little town of Highland Beach, we have codes, very clear codes, and they were way ahead of their time. That was in 1949. They had specified in the codes for every tree taken down, another tree would be planted. We also have in our codes, which have not been enforced. Now we have a new city planner. I'm giving this to her because I'm not going to be here. But this is very important that you understand some of this. The palm trees that you see in the swells belong to the state. I don't know if you've worked with FDOT or have you?
We haven't, no.
No, okay. In other words, you can't plant something in a swell that belongs to FDOT unless you have the permission. But the palm trees that you'll see going south were given to us, and I believe it was by the state. Am I correct? All the palm trees you see going down, the state had planted. I don't know what happened to our canopies, but the other issue I'd like you to look into perhaps, and maybe you have, Boca Raton has a fertilizer ordinance because we are a coastal community and the animals do eat the grass or the palm fronds that come down and everything. And that's an issue too, because we are a coastal community and we want to keep our waters clean. So have you investigated anything of that nature?
With fertilizer use?
Yeah.
No, we haven't. I mean, I know we
Well-
promote not using it in many places, and we actually only plant native trees. So like that right there
Yeah,
is teaching people that you don't need fertilizer with the native trees.
that's
And
correct.
then also in urban orchards, we don't use pesticides. So, I mean, obviously, but we ask that the city not
Right,
use
right.
them.
But what
And,
you could do is come up with something and you request or ask towns to make such an ordinance. There's one already made in Boca.
Yeah.
And I think that that's all part and parcel. It's not just planting the tree, it's taking care of your tree and what fertilizers we are using to keep our environment as clean as possible. And we have someone here who's very involved with our sea turtle rescue. And whatever we do in Highland Beach, we have to be cognizant of the sea turtles and, what they would possibly eat. But there's still plenty of work to do. For some reason, a lot of our ordinances have not been followed. I'm counting on our new city planner and our new manager. He's going to take care of that. And a permit should not be given unless there's an architectural landscape drawing of what they are planting, the plants. But these are all things that you could share with your other communities. You shouldn't give a permit unless you know the plantings. From a building permit. But anyway, that's because I'm so old, I know all this, and I've been on here a long time. However, okay, we do thank you very much. I wish you lots and lots of good luck, and I think it's very important that the 3 communities, Boca, Highland Beach, and Delray, that we work together.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to go to our public comments and requests for non-agenda items only. Okay, go ahead, Fred.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Fred Rosen from Braemar Isle, Boca Highland Beach Club and Marina. Happy and healthy New Year to you all. I wanted to say a couple of things on a personal note. I know that the chamber is going to have some changes in the next few weeks, and I personally wanted to thank Mayor Zellniker. for service for a lot of years. I know sometimes we've disagreed on a lot of things, and we've always been able to talk them out, as you have with everybody. And
Thank you.
I just truly appreciate your service and your service too, Commissioner Donaldson. You know, things change, time passes on, new people come in, but it's, as a taxpayer and a resident, I truly appreciate it,
Oh,
and all
thank
your
you.
help and advice over the years. The only other comment I have is we have some things coming up, which I'm sure Mayor-elect Hillman's going to bring to our attention, that's going to involve this whole town. And we've got a serious situation with the whole Malani situation coming up. It's something that's going to involve not only the commissioners, but every board member and every resident of the town, because this is going to affect all of us. And I'm hoping over the next few weeks that we can all get the word out, get people to come in here for the commission meetings, or at least watch it on TV, and come together as a group, start attending all these county commission meetings. We have a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it. The next year or two is going to determine what this town is really going to look like in 5 years. So hopefully we'll all come together, and thank you guys again.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate it.
Don't go away.
Don't go away. Okay. I see, all right. We had one other person that had a public comment. Can I have
I'm
him?
sorry.
Because you're going to be there for a while. Yeah. Tim, all right, you didn't want to, because he's going to be talking for a while.
Commissioners and Mayor, Happy New Year. I want to thank the town for keeping the Christmas decorations up through today, because today is the day that the Eastern Orthodox Christian community celebrates Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now we'll have Mayor-elect Doug Hillman
Thank you. And Fred.
and Fred. But let me start by saying the conversation is from Doug Hillman today is as the president of Boca Highland, not as the town. This
Correct.
is strictly as the president of Boca Highland.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred, being as bashful as he is, was able to get an appointment with our esteemed Commissioner Weinroth at the county level for Evelyn, myself, and Fred to go and meet with him to discuss the Malani Park situation. And as we were thinking about the whole issue of Malani Park, we wanted to bring to his attention not just the beach itself, but also get him to think about alternative uses for that land. And we're all familiar with the whole 30-plus year history of the park and the lawsuits, et cetera. So our focus, again, representing our community, not our town, and we made sure that he knew that right at the beginning of the meeting. So at the meeting, it was the three of us, and I represented Boca Highlands as the president. Fred and Evelyn are on the board of directors of their own building, which is the largest building in our development as well, and that's being Braemar Island. So he knew that at the time, and we made sure he knew that. The meeting was the middle of December, just about a month ago. First thing we showed him was an overview taken from a drone. A neighbor of ours had a drone, got permission, obviously, to use it, to show him what the beach looked like. And this obviously shows the whole thing. And if you look closely, you can see that the beach itself starts here, ends here. If you go to the right, it's private. If you go to the left, it's private. So the beach is rather small. From here, extends to here. This is Yamana Rock. And if any of you get the blog from John Ross, you'll recognize this picture. Or if you got the Coastal Star, you'll recognize a picture similar to this because we shared this with both of them. The next slide we showed them was a close-up of the rock. This area right in here is live coral. Very, very precious, obviously. But it also shows you, when you start to see, from here to here is the beach. Well, underneath the rock extends all the way out to here and all the way out to the edge of the beach here. So you can't swim here, you can't swim here, and you can't swim here. So maybe a third of this is really swimmable. The rest, very, very dangerous. Because not only is the coral going to rip up your feet, the rest of the rock is very dangerous. So we wanted to make sure that he understood that this is not a very swimmable beach. The next we showed him was a broad overview of the beach. And when you start to look at it as the tide starts to come in, you see that where the seaweed line is where high tide hits. So right up in here is the only area really where people can be sitting. Well, if you're going to build a parking lot for 100 to 120 cars, that represents roughly 300 people. You can't get 300 people up above the high tide mark. So where are those people going to go? They're going to go over onto the public beach, onto the private beaches. Obviously a problem. This is a video of the tide coming in, starts to show you that you're running into problems if you build it as it is presently being planned. So what we wanted to discuss with him is potential alternatives to this. Just another showing the same. And I'll move on to not take up a whole lot of your time. But I'm just going to let this run because as it runs, it starts to back up and the drone shows the whole impact of this. And as the tide comes in, the other thing that happens here is Yamata Rock begins to disappear. And as that disappears, people coming onto the beach are not going to be aware of the hazard of the Yamata Rock. They're going to go in the water, they're going to hurt themselves. Here, of course, is where the parking lot will be. So we said, with this wonderful land and this wonderful area, there might be alternatives to consider beyond just making the parking lot and utilizing the beach. One potential would be a park. Why not forget about this beach and just make a lovely park out of this? And this we lifted from the rendering that was done by Treasure Coast when they were working on the $45 million referendum. And we're not proposing this as this is what should be done, but just to start you thinking and all of us thinking about alternative uses, that's all. This particular idea says, why not have a lot of open space here? People can use it for kickball, use it to play, use it to relax, but over in here, be a great little paved area for people to bring their bikes in, places to sit, but importantly, in this area for water retention, this would be the runoff from A1A. This could be beyond just water retention. This area could filter water. The water could then be run underneath and out into the intracoastal. Second one was also part of the package done by Treasure Coast. This makes better use of it, an expanded water retention area. Within it, an area again to bring your bikes in, water fountain, play area for children. This has sand volleyball in it, areas for people to relax and read, walking areas within it, plenty of new trees, just what we were just talking about. Could put more trees in. Just shows plenty of alternative uses of it as a park. Obviously, the east side, sell off the land to a developer, put some houses in there, take that money, build the park, walk away, don't spend county funds. Then we contracted for one idea. By the way, all of these would have parking spaces in them because it's county. Cars would come. This has 24 parking spaces, could be more than 24. Again, expanded water retention. This also would be a bioretention area, Could be water treatment. Water could be treated here, again, run under our development out into the intracoastal. And again, more trees, other recreational areas could be done here. Another area to bring bicycles in, places to sit, to relax. Could have a saltwater pond. Can do a lot of different things with it. Again, just to give them more ideas, more food for thought. None of these, the final idea, just other ways to utilize the space. Then a totally different thought comes to mind, and that is to have a Cam Milani Environmental Education Center. This would utilize both sides of the street. It would make use of the beach as well. And this would be an education center where we would work with both the FAU people and the Gumbo Limbo people. Topics included in the educational center would be the Yamata Rock and the Japanese settlers, the Seminole Indian tribe, the Via Florida's cultural features and history, coral reef protection, beach and coastal dune environment. We'd have sea turtle nesting, the importance of the barrier island and what the barrier island plays in protecting the South Florida. We could expand it to include things like climate change and resiliency. Could be the history of the barrier island communities, could be the history of Boca Highland, Delray Beach, Highland Beach, et cetera, et cetera. This is just a close-up of what the rock looks like. I mean, it's just a wonderful natural piece, and it's a gorgeous picture. If anybody, I mean, I would love to have this picture on my wall. Okay, it needs to be protected. It needs to be nurtured. We cannot destroy it. The concepts could include any. I mean, you can read it as much as I can. High school students would love to be here. We can bus in grammar school students, elementary school students. It could just be a wonderful area, could include wildlife. We could even, I mean, they could develop a observation saltwater aquarium over the rock because the fish that are around this rock are wonderful. There was an interesting article, again, in Coastal Star just this month about how the fish come here. You could just imagine, a piece above the rock that's, it's not a glass bottom, I forgot what you call the material. Excuse me? A plexiglass, thank you. A plexiglass floor on it where students come out, look down, and you're looking over the coral and you're looking over the fish over it. It's open to imagination as to what could be done here. Can also be developed walking paths where we can put in the proper features to bring wildlife back, bring bird watching back, et cetera. Can be a wonderful thing if, in fact, the county wanted to go in this area. It's open to your imagination. Keep it natural, but keep it safe. And don't build a parking lot for 120 cars, 300 people on a beach that can't accommodate it, and a beach that isn't safe. So that's it. Thank you. We want the commission to see what we showed them.
Well, I thank you for that, except some people that are sitting here are newer, and they don't know the history, like you assumed everybody knows what happened with Milani Park. And I think it's important to understand what happened. And you can explain that, or
Okay, I can give you a
maybe
brief
our
on it.
attorney can explain it. Go ahead.
Jump in if we miss anything. I'll go over very briefly. A little over 30 plus years ago, Cam Milani passed away. The Milani family owned it. The family sold it to the county with the understanding that it would be developed into a park in honor of Cam Milani. The park is basically on the beach side. The beach was the park. On the west side, that open piece of land that you see, the grassland there, is where the parking lot would be. There's some 30 years of history of legal battles, court battles, many dollars spent between the county and Highland Beach and the Milanis over and over again on the nuances of what this is going to be. Included in it was a settlement some 10-plus years ago between Highland Beach and the county on the specifics of what would transpire if, in fact, this gets built. And those specifics would include some 43 or 46 detailed specifics on things like security, hours of operation, et cetera, on the park. Included in that were 2 5-year extensions, if you will, that were granted for the last 5 years. The last 10 are now. Of those 2 5, the county just took the first of those 5 years a few months ago. And when they took that, they also decided to spend roughly $500,000 in design of it. We think that there might be better use of this space. The last thing I guess everybody needs to know is if in fact the county does not move forward on it in the last of the 2 5-year extensions, they sell it. It goes up for auction. The Milani family has the first right of refusal on the auction. One way or another, this will get developed. It's going to happen. We think that there may be better use of it than what their plan is. So these are some ideas to try to get them thinking about other uses besides their current thinking, which is the beach park.
Can I say one thing, John?
Yes, Anthony.
We have 8,000 winter residents in Highland Beach and around 4,000 in the summer. We can get 10% of our population to start going to these county meetings and get vocal and make your feelings be known. We can do something about this.
Yeah, our approach here, our strategy basically is instead of just resist, it's become part of the process with them. Join together and see if there isn't a better approach. You can always resist. You can always fight. That's the last thing to do. If we can't get any place, then sure, we can fight. But let's be part of the process. Let's see if we can't together move this thing as a team for a better utilization of the space. So we wanted the commission to know how the meeting went.
We appreciate that.
In summary, what Commissioner Weinroth said was, once the new commission is formed in March, to come back to him with what the commission would like, and then let's have a discussion.
Okay, but I think it's
He
important.
kind of shook his head
Yeah.
and said, this is interesting.
Right, it's more than interesting, it's very important. But I think that I really would like to say that the public should realize that and correct me if I'm wrong, and the attorney's been involved in this, Mrs. Milani had offered this land to sell it to the town. And I'm bringing that up because I just want everyone to understand, sometimes a commission and a town has to have vision for the future. Now, you're talking about community. Whatever is done there, anybody can come in. Whereas we always had wanted to keep Highland Beach private, and some people are concerned about that. No matter what, the county now owns it because the town of Highland Beach at the time did not purchase it. And at that time, the amount of money was compared to today.
Okay, that's a very valid point.
And
you
I mean,
have to- gotta
I'm
keep that in
saying
mind.
that because sometimes, and I know we have new commissioners that are coming on, it's very important sometimes to have the vision to see what you have to do. It was expedient not to maybe raise the taxes or maybe not to do this project. I have no idea. I wasn't there then. Neither was Glenn. No, but this property was offered to the town, and the town did not buy it.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. This is a county project. Whatever is done, it is county. So it will bring people outside of Highland Beach in, regardless.
Correct.
That's why, if you saw the last slide of it being a park, it needs parking spaces for people to come from outside of Highland Beach, no question about it. Evelyn, do you have anything to add?
No, you've covered it. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Donaldson.
Yes, absolutely. This, from the county has this one-size-fits-all mentality about oceanfront parks. It's a beach, you swim on it, and you put a bunch of cars out there and a few barbecue places. That's it. I don't think anyone's ever really challenged them to think about what they took on when they bought that land. It is not a typical beachfront park, and they need to take a step back and they need to think about this. I very much appreciate your contacting our commissioner and talking to him about this, because this has got to change. The premise of 100 parking spots comes from the minimum that you have to qualify for federal money to renourish beaches. They need to step away from that. This is a different kind of beach. They can easily afford, in the few times they have to deal with some kind of renourishment, without tacking 100 cars to be able to qualify for some money. That's a premise they need to break away from. This could be a very good complement to Gumbo Limbo. This is a special parcel they've taken up, and they need to recognize it. And the people of Highland Beach need to get behind an alternative and press that message hard and fast. And I hope the commissioner realizes that the majority of this commission is going to be coming back in March. So he's already dealing with some known entities. So he can dodge it for a few months, that's fine. But it'll be interesting to have that next meeting. Thank you.
Commissioner Seidman?
Yes, thank you. Just two quick things. I wanted to clarify that this involves an agreement solely within the county and Mrs. Milani. This does not legally involve the town of Highland Beach at this point. Is that right, Glenn? We're just weighing in with what could be as an alternative.
Well, there are 46 or so conditions that the county must meet. I think the county's amenable to discussing. Obviously, it was a great meeting that they both of them had, three of you had with Commissioner Weinroth. And I know manager and I are meeting with staff soon. And, I've got the same indication that they're willing to talk. Now, how far they talk, but this is great concepts and can make a big difference.
Okay, great. So what I'm saying is we don't legally have a voice in it, but we're working on this as a unit, as a town, looking for the best interest for everyone.
Can I interrupt, Peggy?
Yes.
That's not 100% true.
Well, that's why I'm asking Glenn.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, that's not really true. Mrs. Milani at this point has no real input other than as a courtesy, because Mr. Weinroth feels that they made an agreement with her. But legally, she is out of it. The town, however, has a settlement agreement with these 47 different points. So we are legally involved in
Okay,
this.
that's what I'm trying to clarify for everyone. Thank you.
Because we can push that they have to follow these things. And part of it is that on the east side, they cannot put the parking on the east side. It must be on the west side. So you've got a whole piece of property there, most of which they can't use for anything other than a path through it to get to the beach, which is a complete waste of that property at this point. If they would sell the property or somebody would develop, then it's a whole different ballgame. But as far as the county's developing it, they have a lot of hoops that they have to jump through. And this will probably cost them in the neighborhood, if they do it the way they have planned as of right now, in the neighborhood of $20 million. So they have to be cognizant that they're spending $20 million on a beach that maybe you can put 50 to 75 people on.
Very good. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for, exactly what position we have on that piece. And secondly, is there any way we could, an event that Delray Beach involved with the county, is there a way we could impress upon the county to conduct some cleanup of the beach side in terms of code enforcement, in terms of keeping it safe and clean? Because I know there's an abandoned cement sort of garage built into the berm there, and it hasn't really been cleared. Is this anything, anywhere we could weigh in the next 5 years while they refine their plans? As Commissioner David said, that we could ask them, please, let's clean this. I mean, I've been there. It's bad. It's covered in trash, and it really haven't had a cleanup for some time.
That, yes, we can, on a code perspective, make sure that they comply and maintain their property in working order. I know Chief's going to take me out, and we're going to go take a look at that. And then again, as Glenn says, we're meeting with staff over at the county, and those are issues we could bring up in the short term, that they can't have safety risks and hazards and let it fall into disrepair. So.
Okay, great. And then lastly, just to reinforce what Doug has said, I've scuba dived and snorkeled that since the 80s, and actually maybe 78. And there used to be a lot more live coral, and it was a larger outcropping. And you cannot walk on it without cutting your feet. Even in scuba diving booties, you cannot walk on that very safely. You almost have to have a work boot, which then erodes and breaks the coral. So it has lost a lot of the fisheries since that time. I was out there in 2018 last snorkeling. We really do need to protect that. Is actually a reef. That is actually a live coral reef, and I think there's federal laws that protect that as well. And I'm all for, working out something for the best of everyone, but it really isn't a swim site, and it really isn't even a walking, go collect shell site. People should actually be staying off of the rocks itself. Thank you very much. Thank you for your hard work on that.
Vice Mayor?
Thanks. Awesome presentation, epic ideas, and I look forward to trying to help.
Good. Okay, and we appreciate very much all that you've been working on and what we're trying to do for the town. I appreciate it. Thank you.
That was probably the best 5
Thank you,
minutes
Doug.
we've ever spent in public comments.
If we can get to this off somehow.
Teresa can do it for you.
Are there any other public comments for you?
I'm going to find out. Yes, okay. I know that this presentation was a little long, but it was important, and I felt we needed the time for it. Any other further comments before we start our meeting? No more? Seeing no further comments, we will start. Okay. We have number 8, announcements. Board vacancies. Board of Adjustment and Appeals, 3 vacancies for a 3-year term. Code Enforcement Board, 1 vacancy, unexpired term, ending July 1st, 2020. 1 vacancy for an unexpired term ending August 1st, 2021, and 1 vacancy for an unexpired term ending May 28th, 2022. The Financial Advisory Board, 1 upcoming vacancy for an unexpired term ending April 30th, 2022. Planning Board, 1 vacancy for an unexpired term ending September 1, 2022. Meetings and events. Natural Resource Preservation Board meeting, January 8th, 2020. Planning Board meeting, January 9th, 2020. Financial Advisory Board meeting, January 16th, 2020. And Town Commission meeting, January 21, 2020. Town Hall is closed in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, January 20th. Board action report, Planning Board. Is there a board action report? Seeing no one here, I guess not. Natural Resource Preservation Board, is there anyone here from that board? Nope. Okay. Now we go to number 9, ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 20-001. This is the first reading of ordinance number 20-001. I refer this item to Town Manager Labadie.
The discussion of the previous items you want?
No, his,
Yes, yeah.
his discussion.
Yeah.
Turning it over to me?
I'm turning it over to the Vice Mayor, yes, sir.
Excellent. I'm going to stand and make my presentation just a little easier to see.
So just for the record, for the public, those that are not present, the Vice Mayor is going to present his item, which is discussion on proposal for boat setbacks.
All right, thank you, Commission, and thank you for moving this to item 9A. I certainly haven't put a lot of agenda items on the agenda over the last year or so, and every time I put one on, it's either a major opportunity or a major catastrophe, and I highlight this one under catastrophe. I'll start with my presentation, give a little background on myself. Why am I talking about this? I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Environmental Engineering. I used to help design these kind of things, marine facilities. I've owned a bunch of boats. I've lived in a bunch of single-family residences in Delray and Highland Beach, all on the water. And a little known fact that I haven't told anyone, I'm actually studying for my Florida Marine GC license. Mostly because it's what I studied for originally, and there's a 4-year requirement for it, and I get 3 years waived, and I figured, hey, why not? This could be kind of fun to review some of the stuff I previously studied in life. So boat setbacks, and this presentation is going to talk about boat setbacks, but it'll also go in a little bit detail of some of the other things that were in this first ordinance reading. Where did this whole idea come from? And by the way, thank you to staff for making this presentation look so nice. What I gave them was really blank white pieces of paper that were pretty unprofessional, Mickey Mouse, and they polished it up in a matter of hours, so thank you. The ordinance that we're discussing today, previously the commission proposed to allow the planning board to make the final decisions on seawalls and marine facilities. At the last planning board meeting, the town planner, the previous town planner, Mary McKinney, inserted a 10-foot setback requirement for boats from each property line. She also inserted some language related to multifamily docks. These concepts were never discussed with us at the commission, so her attempt to slip, you get the pun, the boating pun, slip, to slip it into legislation. Fortunately, the planning board, which I've complimented many a times, identified this attempt. I was actually watching the planning board meeting as it was going on, and I literally looked up the definition of willful misconduct during the meeting. And it was, willful misconduct means an intentional wrongful act committed with disregard for a known or obvious risk that is so great that it makes it highly probable the harm will follow. Does what you did fall under willful misconduct? Probably not, but I had to at least look it up. At the very minimum, it was a bit of a rogue act, in my opinion, to slip that information in and not really mention it to any of us. So I thought we'd talk just a little bit about boat docking, considering we're talking about setbacks, and some people may be more familiar and some may be less familiar with this. When you dock a boat, you have two sets of lines. The green lines are your bow and stern lines. The purple lines are your spring lines. Your spring lines always stop a boat from moving forward and backwards, and your green lines, your bow and stern lines, stop it from moving away from the dock. That is the proper way to always dock a boat. So what do you use to dock a boat? You use dock lines, and the correct length of dock line should be roughly 2/3 of the length of your boat. There are two types of dock lines. There are 3-strand lines, which are those old white, twisty-looking lines that have about a 12% stretch in them, and they have Mega Braid, which is a much fancier line used for bigger boats. They still stretch. They have 10% stretch in them. When you tie up a boat and you use these spring lines, the purple ones right there, you have to adjust for tide, because sometimes the tide is lower and the lines are more taut, and sometimes the tide is higher and the lines are more loose. And this fantastic drawing that I found doesn't do a great job of showing it, but the point is that the lines can't be the same tension all the time. As the tide changes, so do the lines. Why does this matter? Due to changes in tide and line stretch, and the line stretch comes from wind and current, we actually have natural setbacks on every property when you park a boat, or when you dock a boat. If you have a 100-foot wide property and a 92-foot boat, you have roughly 4-foot setbacks from either side of the property edge. So we talked about the spring lines, the purple lines. If you assume you have 30-foot lines and you have really high-quality lines, they stretch 3 feet. So that means the boat can move forward and backward towards either property line 3 feet. If you also take into account the high and low tide, because remember we said at low tide the lines might be tight and at higher tide they might be looser. For a 3-foot tide swing, which we have in Highland Beach, that's almost another foot of slack. So what does that mean? If you have a 92-foot boat, the 4 feet at either end, you're going to use up at some point in order to not cross over into your neighbor's property. So you can't necessarily really have a 100-foot boat that is on a 100-foot piece of property and say that you're definitely not going to go over the property line. So there are natural setbacks that do exist just by the nature of using lines. Now, any boater might say yes, but they've got all these great products like tide slides and tide rights and all these things that are on poles and they move up and down to help keep the boat in the same spot. Well, that's fine, but at some point you have to use some sort of line to connect a boat to it, and line stretch, so maybe they can drop the movement, the horizontal movement from 4 feet to 2 feet, but there's still going to be some movement. I just did a quick little calculation to kind of illustrate it. Actually, that was the illustration there. I did a second one just for some residences that have a large boat and a small boat. The same math basically exists. So then I thought a little bit about how do surrounding towns deal with boat length versus property size. And as you would imagine, Ocean Ridge, Boca Raton, Delray Beach, there's a lot of towns around us, and they've thought pretty robustly about this stuff. And my favorite definition was actually Boca Raton's, which is no part of a boat shall be moored so as to extend beyond the side property line projected into a canal. This subsection shall be applicable regardless of time, tide, wind, and current. Hey, it sounds like they thought about a bunch of things we just actually calculated. Pretty good definition. So as I was saying, based on the calculations, there's natural setbacks that actually already exist. Got a little bit of feedback from the residents, and this really goes towards boat setbacks and a bit also to just general marine facilities and docks in general. I have a list of 20 residences, 20 properties that I'll pass out to the commission. 20 different property owners reached out to express their position against any boat setbacks. Interestingly enough, not all, but almost all of them proactively also talked about a desire for Highland Beach to conform to more of the surrounding town ordinances related to docks, lifts, other marine facilities, that sort of stuff. I think the number will probably end up being a lot more than 20, because as I spoke to people, a lot of them said, look, I'm going to talk to my neighbor. They care about this as well. Expect to hear from them. So maybe the list of 20 that I have now will be growing. And I thought I would share just a few of the comments, if nothing more, just to give a little bit of flavor from the residents. And again, these are only people that own waterfront properties. The first one talks about the gated waterfront properties, places like the Enclave. And the residents are saying, look, we already have a dockmaster that arbitrates these issues. We really don't need the town adding any unnecessary restrictions. It really should be going the other way, meaning less restrictions. A bunch of residents talked a fair amount about the negative impact by adding setbacks to property values. Basically, you get it when you live on the water, you want to be able to use the water. And if you start adding in setbacks, that means your waterfront property is less usable. You can only have a smaller boat. Other towns are more attractive around you to have boats behind the homes. And that's going to make waterfront property values down, and therefore everybody's taxes going up. And I'll leave the other few comments for you to read, but I think in the C comment, I think the thing that's most important is a resident was basically saying the only reason why I could think of why people would be asking for boat setbacks is because it's blocking their view, and they certainly shouldn't have someone's boat blocking directly behind their house as a view, because that means it's going over the property line. That's unacceptable. We don't allow that. But if they're blocking a view to the side, that is a right that they don't own. So it may block a diagonal view, but you don't own the view across your neighbor's property. a little bit more math to explain why residents were so upset. If you have a 100-foot wide property and then we institute 10-foot setbacks, that actually reduces your space for a boat 80 feet. So you're actually decreasing your usable water space for a boat by 20%. Not everyone has a 100-foot property. There are a lot of 70-foot properties, 50-foot properties, 80-foot properties, 90-foot properties in the town. At an 80-foot property, you're decreasing it by 25%. So then I spent a little bit of time thinking, have we utilized a robust framework to evaluate if boat setbacks are even necessary? And to me, it feels like this was very much ready, fire, aim on how this all came into this proposed ordinance. As I've said, surrounding towns face similar issues. We should be leveraging their policies. We should be leveraging their experts. They've definitely written this stuff better than we have. We should be basing decisions, and by the way, these are all things that have come up time and time again. We should be basing decisions on how it'll impact all the residents, not just on anecdotes or demands from a few small sample sets. The Dr. Greenwald favorite, creating and modifying ordinances should move forward slowly. They should be well thought out and analyzed. Clear and deliberate. They must be responsible. Second and third order effects need to be considered. Obviously, no overreach, and we shouldn't be hastily making meaningful changes to existing ordinances. These are my only recommendations. I think the idea of instituting boat setbacks right now in this ordinance is overreach. I think actually making any zoning sort of changes in this ordinance right now is overreach. It's not necessary to do anything at the moment. I think the whole concept of boat setbacks right now should be tabled by the commission. The planning board at the end of their last meeting was asking for direction from the commission. When they were in their meeting, they were surprised that this stuff was put into the ordinance. They questioned if the commission ever reviewed it. Town planner McKinney said she did not bring it to the commission. They smartly pulled it out and were asking for direction. We need to give them direction. So I think at the moment we should instruct them to table the concept of boat setbacks as well. And I think if we do have issues where a boat is going over a property line, we can enforce that now. So let's actually have some proper enforcement. And my last and final slide, thank you for indulging me, is sort of a process or a framework that I thought should be followed before we do make any changes to this, really to any marine ordinances, beyond boat setbacks, for lifts, for docks, for anything. We should really be looking at the surrounding towns' ordinances. Ocean Ridge and Boca Raton clearly spent a lot of time writing their ordinances. They're really sharp, they're really clear, they're really logical and rational and reasonable. When I read theirs and then I read what we have, it's like night and day. Trying to edit this ordinance from a zoning perspective or restrictions perspective or lifts or boats or all this stuff, it's really, in a way, as they say, just putting lipstick on a pig. We got to do this thing right. So we shouldn't spend a lot of time editing this ordinance beyond what we originally agreed to do, which is move the responsibility to the planning board. Marshall and our new town planner, Ingrid, had a suggestion of bringing in to present the marine firm that helped Boca Raton write their code, their marine code. Their code's good. It's probably not a bad idea to bring them in and have them present to us, and maybe we can even hire them as an advisor. That's how we should be editing this stuff. We obviously want advisory board input. I think we should complete those first two tasks first, and the advisory board would be the planning board. And lastly, over 1 week, we had 20 properties speak out about how they felt strongly about their waterfront. Let's give some preference to them. Let's hear what they really want. Let's get more input from them. And if their recommendations are reasonable, sensible, and they match surrounding towns, we should at least consider them. As they say, the first step in getting out of a hole is stop digging. So that was the point of this presentation, to stop digging. So that's the end of my presentation. I'll go back to the dais and make my original comments, and then we can talk more about this.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a very good presentation. Vice Mayor, have a seat. And Commissioner David, please, any comments?
Yes, I have actually questions. When you're dealing with a perpendicular docking, it's one issue because you've got your pilings, you've got your docks, and so the boat is going to be within certain parameters. When you're dealing with docking on a face dock, and you've got two properties, 100 feet each, and you've got two owners who each want to have a 92-foot boat, how do you deal with this so that they're not slamming into each other? You can't quite parallel park a boat. It doesn't, you need more than inches in between. And how do we deal with that without having the guy who puts the 92-foot boat there first then gets to tell the other guy, well, you can't have this bigger boat because you're going to interfere with mine? What do we do?
I love that question.
Okay.
So anyone knows me, I have a son who loves boating, and we have a almost 40-foot boat behind our house. And on weekends, I take him around and I make him put the boat into difficult spots like that. He can literally move the boat sideways. Most boats today, day and age, have a bow thruster and two engines. If you have a bow thruster and two engines, you can literally move the boat sideways into a slip. 8 feet is way more than enough space. When you have two boats and there's a bit of a setback, you're never going to have one being pulled backwards by the wind and the other being forward by the wind, and where they're going to bump into each other. They're either both going to go north or they're both going to go south. So that same 8 feet of distance is always going to remain. It just might be closer to one edge of the property or the other edge of the property. One of the coolest things that they've come out with now is joysticks for boats. And I was going to put it in a slide, but I thought it'd be just a little bit too nerdy. But what they do now with boats with outboards is you turn on the joystick and it aims both the engines out. So literally what it does is when you want to move the boat sideways, you just move the joystick sideways and it puts one engine in forward, the other engine in reverse, and it literally slides the boat sideways. So the only boat now that really can't move sideways with relative ease is a sailboat. And I'll throw in one other little nerdy thing in there. There's a whole section on docking of boats and using lines as you dock to help get boats to either move around corners or move sideways.
That I understand, because that's why you put the spring line on first, so that you can move around it. And that's why if you're perpendicular, you go up against the piling and you swing in around the piling. And so I understand about that. I've also had a professional captain who, in essence, parallel parked my boat, where he put the bow of my boat, which was smaller, underneath the bow of another boat. So, yes, it can be done. Most typical boat owners could not do it quite the way he did it. But it is a concern. It depends on how you've got things set up. I haven't handled a boat in a long time, so I'm not familiar with all of those new things. But previously, you wouldn't have bow thrusters on a 30-foot boat, for example. They were generally on 75, 80-foot boats. They were on bigger vessels. Thank you.
It's now, I've seen even center consoles with 27 feet that come with bow thrusters. It just makes it easier for everybody. So they're it's become a bit more of a standard.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes, thank you. Good presentation, Greg. My favorite boats are other people's boats, so that'll tell you something about the extent of my knowledge of boats, particularly larger ones. To the point raised regarding how this whole setback got into the ordinance for review, I think we need to be a little bit tempered on that. We often sit up here and direct the town manager or staff to take rough cuts, go back, refine them, bring them back, and quite often things will get worked in there that we didn't necessarily discuss, but perhaps they came across and thought, well, maybe I should bring up this point, maybe we should consider this. So I don't want to be too harsh on that because it does happen. Fortunately, we have our board process, the town manager's review, our review, to kind of filter those things out. So it happens, and we are, I say we, certainly I am guilty of, passing things back and asking them to develop it a little bit without being too specific. We have to trust their judgment to some degree, certainly. That's why they're here. So I look forward to the discussion on the next agenda item, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Cossett-Sideman?
Yes, thank you. We have an 8-year-old boat. It does not have bow thrusters, but we have plenty of dockage space. I do understand what Commissioner David's point is, because if people need to pull straight into their lift, which is parallel to the property, they need at least a boat, maybe 1.5 to 2 boat lengths to line up and pull in. So there might be a rare occasion when that would happen with older boats without thrusters. And you would just have to use common sense in a neighborhood such as ours. I did a quick study on the weekend, seeing this up on the presentation, and I want to say, Greg, that was really a lovely presentation, and I'm so glad that someone is doing such a topically pertinent piece of information for us. I think that with common courtesy on the waterway, I think the waterways are much more a group of courteous people than sometimes the roadways, because it's out of necessity. If you just stall or just cut your engine mid intercoastal, you'll have 5 boats pass by, say, do you need help, do you need a tow, are you okay? If you pop your engine up, they'll call Towboat USA for you. So I think we have to realize that the waterways are really a group of reasonable, commonsensical people. I did do a quick calculation. We have 8.7 miles of waterways in Highland Beach, counting the 3.1 on the ocean. And that's a lot of waterways, a lot of boats. So moving forward, I think we have to look at a lot of these different facilities, look at other towns. I do not think we need a 10-foot setback on either side. And if there's an occasion that 2 boats next door to one another do not fit in their lifts, that people just have to work it out somehow themselves, which has been the case, in my estimation, living here almost 30 years in March. Thank you.
Okay, and Greg, would you like to talk again?
No, I'll save my comments for after the public comments.
Okay, well, a quick comment from me. I'm not a boater. I used to go out to Block Island many years ago with my father on a boat, so I know about boats too. But we only go with our friends on their boats. I don't even know why or how this came up, to tell you the truth. I'm not quite sure why it wound up in the planning board. Brian, you were at the planning board meeting, or? Oh, David. Oh, I didn't even recognize you. Have a different mustache or something.
Mayor, we sent it to them, so.
Yeah, all right. Wait. He wasn't here when we had the reports. I would like to hear from the planning board. Yeah. You come on up, please.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. He wasn't here. Yeah.
We basically almost missed this, to be honest with you. It was buried in this other resolution. And thanks to actually Rick Greenwald, who basically saw it, he brought it up and immediately split it up. My personal thing is, we didn't see a need for it. I mean, basically, the planning board was rather surprised when we heard this. And, so we're waiting for a response from you guys on what to do. Originally, none of us are voters. We were planning a sort of meeting to visit Bellino and stuff like that. So really, my answer on this subject, as I said, after review of this, we didn't understand why it was hidden in there. We asked Mary at that time, where this come from. She said, well, she actually put it in there. And that was about it. So I'm not sure this is even worth discussing. And if you guys don't want it, we'll leave it out and plan into a meeting at the next agenda. Thank you.
Yeah, I happen to feel this should just not be here. I think in all the years I've been on this commission for 6 years, 5 years as a commissioner, 1 year as a mayor, and I really haven't heard people complain. The only complaint I ever heard of, which a few people did complain, was the boat lifts are high and their view was blocked. But I think the boaters in our community, that's why they move here, they love it here. And I agree with with the Commissioner Seidman, common sense has to rule. If you have a neighbor, you have to be neighborly and they work it out between them. I don't think we have to have an ordinance for every little thing like this. But I do like the idea of sharing with the other voting communities. So I would suggest we table this, find out what Boca's doing, Delray's doing. Not table it until Marshall and Ingrid get more information.
Mayor, I was going to say is maybe what we should do is just take the public comments and then we can make some motions on what to do.
Okay. Well, that would be my suggestion.
So if I could frame the public discussion a little bit too, what you're looking at here, the boat setbacks have already been removed by the planning board, so that those are not included in your marine facility. So this is more moving back to who makes the decisions, because originally when we contemplated all this, we had 3 different means by which to approve marine facilities. So the idea was to get it all to one body on behalf of the residents to say, if I do want a boat lift, a seawall, a dock, where do I go? Right now, you go 3 different directions, multiple public hearings, and we heard that that's kind of frustrating. So the idea was to bring it back. What was discussed and placed in here is that it would stop with the planning board. As several of the items were already considered special exceptions, that was the process followed. So you see it in the ordinance that now all marine facilities are a special exception, approvable by the planning board. So they have to go through that process, have a public hearing. Again, I'd always advise with riparian right issues to always have a public hearing so somebody can have their voice heard in case something is missed. And then if you move forward with approving it, because the setbacks are out, that issue is not here. Doesn't appear that I've heard everyone's really that interested in it. And then there's one other small change on 11 that needs to be adjusted, because that was not a directive of the commission either as it relates to setbacks for accessory marine facilities in multifamily districts. There's a strike through on page 11 that has to be removed out. Again, we are at first reading. We can make that change before the second reading. We can make that change, and then with that one last change, or the only change of this current version, it cleans the document up to your initial intent. And then I heard from Vice Mayor Bobby's presentation that maybe we being Ingrid, kind of start framing this discussion, doing the research, and slowly moving that through the planning board to say, is there a better way? Because there are other issues I won't bring up. But as technology improves, I mean, this ordinance is 40 years old. There's new fun things with boats and boat security devices, things of that nature that really kind of don't fit in anywhere. So we should probably start to take a look at how we address the future of boating and marine facilities here in Highland Beach, and that would be the long term. But today, if we make that one minor change on page 11, we can move forward with the planning board as the, if you so choose, the planning board as the body to have that final review of all accessory marine facilities.
What's your comments on that?
Yep, Marshall covered it. I was going to say
That's
what
it.
he had just said. So.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. Did we direct, I'm having to recall a lot of this since we had a month off. Did we direct the planning board to establish that all 3 areas go to their jurisdiction instead of the commission? Did we direct that, or did they take that upon themselves per Ms. Mendelson at the last meeting?
A little bit of both. We came back in, staff initially presented it saying we go all these different places and all these different directions. We're hearing that people are frustrated. It's not efficient. It would make it a lot better if we had it at one stop. And then I know that we at the commission level, you guys discussed commission planning board. There was a leaning towards the planning board, and then you moved it to the planning board for discussion to see what would be the best. And the planning board thought it was appropriate that it stop with the planning board for review, and that's what's before you today. You do have that ability. If you're uncomfortable with the planning board, you could move it to the commission or to staff or some variant in there. But right now, as reviewed by the advisory board under the general direction, is planning board is the stop as a special exception. And the reason why we keep it as a special exception a little bit is for very unusual situations that we can't foresee today. Some random setup device or collection of marine facilities, we just don't know. Special exception does give us the ability to say no, or the planning board, if this approved, the ability to say no if there's something very unusual that comes up, rather than a use by right, and then we kind of have to try to fit it in, if you will.
I just want to make sure that anytime this would go before the planning board, which is where I think it should be, that the neighbors receive notification. And in one section, it calls for notification, in another, it was crossed out. So I'm not entirely sure where it is, but I definitely think neighbors, certainly within 500 feet on either side, should get notification. But based on what we did in the past for other things, it should not be certified. It should be regular mail.
So first-class mail, 500 feet, that has been changed in here to match what you changed with the general provisions under the administrative code elements that all public notices, 500 feet, first-class mail.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Now, at this time, public comments are now open. However, I have a feeling this isn't, I'm not quite sure how the commission will vote on this.
Are we officially on 9A? Did we introduce it?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Bill was there. Okay, yes, please. Surely.
I'll make this short and sweet. J.B. Frost, 4210 South Ocean, number 2. I was one of the residents that reached out to the vice mayor.
Good, I'm glad you're here.
And voter for 64 years. And I'll make this really short and sweet. Commissioner Gossett-Seidman, you hit 2 proper words: common sense and courtesy.
Mhm.
And if you have a 92-foot boat, you better have somebody who can dock it. But again, I run everything from 70 feet down to 30 feet.
Yeah.
You can, this really is a matter, you don't need this ordinance. You don't even need to consider this. This is really a common sense courtesy. The other piece of this has to do with how voters generally treat each other. This is really a non-issue, and if you have courtesy with your neighbors, again, it remains a non-issue. So I encourage you to let this one go.
Thank you. I wish more people would come to a meeting and say how they feel. Okay, yes?
Roger Brown, 4314 Tranquility Drive and 4315 Tranquility Drive. I want to say that I think it was a great presentation, Vice Mayor. Absolutely terrific. I'm glad that this gentleman said what he said, because anybody who has a 92-foot boat and can't put it in sideways should not be driving the boat. Actually, anybody who has a 40-foot boat and can't put it in sideways shouldn't be driving it. So I think that the thought of having setbacks is kind of an absurdity and should be kind of let go as well. At one of the last commission meetings, I got up and I spoke and I talked about micromanaging, and I thought that it was a really bad idea to micromanage other committees and shouldn't have one committee make an approval and then have it to go to another committee, that we need to trust the committees that we have. Otherwise, we shouldn't have the committees. So I think that you're going in the right direction to have one committee, whether it be the planning board or the city commission, whatever the committee is, that committee should make the decisions on what is to be done. I don't think it should be a multi-committee thing. I moved into this community because it's a marine community, because it's a boating community, and I 100% agree with Commissioner Seidman that courtesy is something that's most important, and being neighborly and actually communicating with your neighbors and speaking to them is something that is very important. So thank you. And I'm a 2-home owner in this community, so I appreciate everybody's work in the community.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the residents coming here. Okay, Dr. Greenwald?
Rick Greenwald, 4308 Tranquility Drive. I agree with what's going on. There's no need for those setbacks, and I agree with common courtesy, communication, all that. And that's why when I first read these before I went to the planning board, I said, where did all this stuff come from? I know that there were two ordinances, so I may be speaking out of order now because there were some other things that came up at the planning board that were new changes that I'm not sure whether they're in the ordinance we're considering or a different one. But let me just bring them up before we approve something and then find afterwards that it's actually in there. The setbacks for the boats, which was a change we discussed, I think everybody's agreed you're going to get rid of that. There was also a clause in there for requiring permits for floating docks, floating lifts, things like that. I'm pretty sure that was in there. I don't know if we got rid of it or not, but because I asked the question and I thought it was in there. Some of the things, again, to me weren't clear, and again, I don't want more rules than we have to have. But in terms of perpendicular docking and so on, I mean, clearly there should be some degree as to how things can extend vertically outwards. So it's one thing to have kayaks, paddleboards, jet skis, whatever, that are vertically docked versus a 50-foot boat that's vertically docked. So things like that just needed to be cleared up, and I just wanted to make sure they were cleared up before we inadvertently passed something or got it past its first reading. The last thing, which I don't know how often it would apply, but there were clauses in there that I think was actually going to be changed in what I would regard a favorable direction, whereas if somebody had wanted to do major improvements either to a property that they bought or knock down a house or build a new one, they were required under the previous rules to take down their existing dockage facilities, which didn't necessarily make sense because if it was a perfectly good facility and it would pass inspection, why take it down? So that was, I thought, like a good thing that was being considered. Anyway, I wasn't sure which was in which, and before you vote today, I just want to make sure that the proper elements are being approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Surely. Sure.
I'm just going to make one comment on Dr. Greenwald's comments. So I wasn't super clear in my presentation, my apologies. One of the reasons why I said we should have that marine firm come in is because Boca Raton, Ocean Ridge have crystal clear a code on how to handle perpendicular docking, how to handle setbacks, how to handle floating lifts, how to handle fixed lifts, how to handle almost anything you can possibly think of. And to try to rewrite what we have, which has massive amounts of holes in it, is just going to actually create more ambiguity. So the whole suggestion was have that group come in. They actually helped write the Boca language, and let's do it right.
Doug?
Yeah.
Please.
Mayor, I need.
As I understand it, this is just to give it to the planning board, not to change what the code is. That should be done down the road when we bring in a consultation firm to help us clean it up.
That's my hope.
Okay. Mr. Hillman?
Thank you. Doug Hillman. I agree.
Yeah, well, we all do.
Your presentation, Greg. Generally, 9 out of 10 times, I'm like for short and sweet, and yours was rather long. But it was the 1 out of 10 times. I mean, perfect, spot on, thank you. Well-researched, well-presented. I agree with everything. Bringing in the consulting firm, obviously we should do that. They know, they're specialists, they know exactly what they're doing. And possibly we can pick up much of what has already been done. Why try to invent the wheel? So it'll be quick. It'll probably be very inexpensive as well. So definitely we should do that. But I think there's also a lesson to be learned with this, and that is we should not be responding so quickly to 1 or 2 or 3 very small samples of individuals. And I mean, I've observed what we've been doing for a year and a half here, and we tend to do that. And I think we need to learn, this is a big lesson here, because if it had not been picked up in your session, my God, it might have gone through, and that would have been horrible. And obviously we could have fixed it and changed it, but let's just slow down and not respond to the last 2 or 3 emails or what a couple of neighbors have told us. And make sure we do proper sampling here, okay? Thank you.
This gentleman would like to speak again. It's okay. Don't be sorry. We're happy we have residents here. Don't apologize.
Commander Spock once made a statement to the captain of the Starship Enterprise that said that the needs of one should never outweigh the needs of the many. So I agree with Mayor-elect. I just want to make sure that you're not intending on regulating floating docks or floating vessel platforms, because floating vessel platforms are actually regulated by state statute 403.811S. I have provided that statute to the former town manager and the former code enforcement and the former other people as well, along with the Attorney General's opinion that the town cannot regulate floating vessel platforms in any way, shape, or form, cannot impose any more strict rules than what is in the actual Florida state statute. So I just want to make sure that that's not part of what it is that you are looking at doing.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the information. Okay, at this point, are there any further comments, or the comments are now closed on this topic?
Mayor?
Yes?
I just want to point out, we moved from AA to A, and I wanted to provide a few more comments before we leave the topic, if that's okay?
Okay.
Whenever there's a spot.
Well, it is.
Now,
But
thank you.
In other words, that if there's no more public comments, it goes back to commission discussion. Okay,
ready?
So please.
Well, I looked into a few things. Since 2014, I was, as a secretary of my association, I looked into various matters about docks and boating. And this is because actually what happened is there were developers on Abellito Street, and they put up a number of homes, and it turned out that we discovered that there's a new permit called Self-Certification Exempt Dock with Boat Lifts. And this is because of cutbacks at the federal level for DEP and the Army Corps. And in that case, if you're just replacing a few dock boards or just doing a minor cap or minor work, you can self-certify that that's what you're doing and obtain a permit without an inspection and without all the processes. And several people had taken that route and then, in fact, done a major work, not lived up to what they had applied for. And in that case, the Army Corps came out, this is in 2014, and reviewed and had to recertify and re-permit 3 different properties. And so at that point, I did another dive into this because it affected many, many people in the marina area of our lakes, of which Mr. Brown lives on one of the lakes. And I found out, too, that at the time that the intercoastal is governed by federal, the Spanish River, which is the river circumnavigating Bellito on 3 sides, the indigenous Spanish River, is authorized by the state, and the 2 lakes are owned by the town. They also recommended we take those lakes, which we could not find when I spoke to Mr. Labadie about this last year. We need to have them surveyed out. There was not a survey done to this part of the town ownership. I found out, too, that there are several different things that factor permitting a dock, boat, and seawall, a boat lift and a seawall. And there's a big case of riparian rights, which goes back to an act called the Rivers and Harbors Act of 1899, which still prevails. There are many sections. Section 7 states that the Army Corps has final say on all waterways in the 49 states, that would be. And based on that, they still have to be factored in. And there's this case from Florida, General Overview of Riparian Rights in Florida. It's about 30 pages long. This governs a lot of our decisions on seawalls, boats, and lifts. And then there's the DEP codes, which factor in. And I have a copy of that, which I can copy to the commission and the planning board, the environmental permits. Many things are required. We need to have a seagrass inspection, and there are about 12 species of fish that are in the intercoastal that have to be protected if it's a breeding ground. Also, the manatee zones have to be looked at anytime pilings or anything is driven into the waterways. Also, the Army Corps actually owns your seawall, and about 12 inches landward, they own the actual visual piece of your seawall, even though you have to install and keep it up. And these fences over the seawall, technically no one's going after them, but they are not legal because a boater in times of distress should be able to pull his boat physically from land and not have an obstruction. These are all things that come into play. And in the past, before this planning board and this commission, many docks and seawalls were put in without the proper codes, going back to a long time back. I'm just pointing this out because it's a very complicated process to drop pilings into a waterway and not just cap your seawall, but all of this is a very complicated process that involves all laws. 10 years ago, the planning board did have the final authority in this. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, the commission said, no, we're going to take over the authority. And now we're saying we have this consensus. Well, maybe we have a consensus. Let's give it back to the planning board. My point is, I agree with Vice Mayor Bobby. I think we need to stop and we need to update the codes fully and make sure that we have, perhaps as Mr. Labadie suggested, a real marine expert coming in here to help us manage all of these laws and these regulations before we have a bigger problem. I mean, we could have a bigger problem. I don't feel that I am an authority enough to make a decision on a dock or a seawall. I mean, I'm not a captain. I've got a list of U.S. Coast Guard license, which my whole family has, but you've got captain's license, marine engineers, dock masters, boat mechanics, seawall and lift contractors. These are the guys who should be making the decision, in my opinion. And I think that the commission keeps saying, well, we're the elected officials, but we're going to give these decisions to this board or that board or that board. But really, we're the elected officials. We should be ones making hard decisions. And if we don't feel the authority exists with us, and the planning board, I don't know if they have anyone of this, of a great length of expertise in marine facilities, I think we need to stop and take a look at the overall codes, which are super outdated, and bring in an expert and give us some direction, because I just think we're sort of working with one paddle here. I just don't feel like we've got a handle on this whole situation. So I would like to look into tabling it until we get an expert in, and at that time, sort out the codes, make them compliant perhaps with nearby cities, and then decide who is the best person, and maybe even keep as a retainer a marine expert on staff who can look at each plan and say, yes, this is good, or no, this is not good. That's how I feel. I don't feel like among our officials that any single body has a whole handle on how to handle this. It's gone beyond that. And now with a bull market and home sales going well, and everyone wants a piece of little slice of the paradise, I feel like we really need to stop and look at if everybody is getting obtain a boat and park a boat, or if every third house does. This is a lot of seawalls and docks, and we need to stop and take a hard look at it and then move on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner David, any comments?
Yeah, I thought that we had already decided that we were separating this out into letting the planning board do the hearings, and that it would all be a special exception, and bringing in experts so that we can overhaul our code and have everything with all our ducks in a row, so everyone knows what it is they need to do, that the experts set this up, and then the planning board will just implement what the experts set up.
Okay. Commissioner Donaldson?
A couple of items. One, on page 13, I noticed we eliminated the appeal process. Refresh my memory, is that because there's already state law that just kind of applies to that, and we were just being redundant?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I recalled. I just wasn't completely sure. As far as, I think it's a good idea to bring in an expert and have them bring us up to speed on what's happening out there and what we need to do. I guess in terms of how that should happen and where they should go, I'm wondering if that might be better placed with the planning board to receive that presentation, because we can either attend or monitor on the TV when we can, and that way they sort of get the first hit and review, and then we're clued in as well, so we don't have to repeat it. Because I would suspect they would want the same information if that expert came to us first. So just back doing it twice. So maybe that should be, we should think about maybe that as the way to do that and communicate it. A little out of sequence, but I do want to remind everyone, I have been asking to please keep in mind that we document all seawall improvements somehow on some kind of a list, so we can track, just like the gentleman that were up here talking about the canopy effect. We need to know our seawall effect. How are we doing? Where are we doing okay? Where are the docks really old? How are we doing in our comprehensive plan as far as those kinds of waterway improvements? So let's not lose track of that in all of this. The point, and I've also brought this up a few times, one of the, within the context of my discussions on improving boards, size, quality, whatever we're doing, time and again I've mentioned that one very important thing we need to do is keep learning. Things like bringing in this expert is exactly what we should be doing. Whether it's our environmental committee, code committee, when they feel they would like to bring someone in, they should even brainstorm. What are we missing? What do we think we need? And get those people in. The board's abilities are tied to what they know. And I am sure they want to learn more. And we should certainly respond to that. Finally, this approach, as the vice mayor has pointed out, and the good doctor has pointed out many times about slowing down a little bit, I think might also be extended to the ordinance we have working its way through dealing with vacant property and docks that remain. I looked at the last pass through and I still have some issues with that. I think we need some more tweaking on that as well. This whole idea of slow it down a little bit should, I think, be extended to that as well, not to get completely off topic, but in the general theme that we just need to be a little bit more careful about making them a little better. So that's where it is. I have no problem with tabling this, pushing it back for a little further review, and that's it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, do you have any more comments on this?
No more comments. I have motions, but.
All right, yeah, I agree. And before you know it, with all this new technology, the boat is going to park itself. You'll be driving a car without a driver. So we're coming to a time with the technology, we're all laughing, but you want to know it's going to happen. And not in our lifetime, maybe, but it will happen. We're finished with our open discussion, but go ahead, Doug.
I think Peggy makes a very, very compelling argument here, and I'm glad she brought it up. Thank you. But the consultant, a marine consultant with the proper knowledge, I think should be placed at the hands of the building department, so that when the information comes to the planning board, it's already cleared.
That's right.
So the information comes to the planning board saying that all of this has been reviewed, has been tested, it's within code. The expert from the marine blah, blah, blah agency has reviewed it and said it is correct, it's within code. It passes all of the agencies that Peggy has brought to our attention and more, and it's good to go. Now, building department, what do you want to do? So it really doesn't slow the process down that much, but it gives them now the information so they can make decisions. Therefore, it doesn't have to come to the commission. The whole goal here was to get these departments, boards, working and being able to make decisions. Again, I go back to what we've talked about for quite some time, is we want to build the boards with quality people. We have another one coming on, hopefully in the very near future. We're not going to attract good people if we don't let them make decisions. So we're starting to get more and more better people. In fact, Ron is now going to apply for my position on the finance board. If we don't let them make decisions, they're not going to get involved. So let's give them the information for them to make decisions, bring it back further and further, and let's get them at the building department so they can make the decisions.
We now have a city planner now, too, which we never had, and we're counting on our city planner. So, as she's sitting there. She should be involved in all of this, of course. Okay, I think we're up to a motion, and I think Greg wants to make the first motion.
Throw a few out and see what sticks. I move that the commission tables the concept of boat setbacks and recommends the planning board to do the same.
Second.
Should we do them one at a time?
I hear there's probably about 3 motions that are going to be, this is the boat setbacks. Do you
This
want
is the
them to
boat
continue
setbacks.
exploring it? Step 1.
That's step 1.
Yeah.
Okay, Vice Mayor Bobby?
Yes.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman?
Yes.
Mayor Zellniker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, going to the harder ones. I move that we get back on track by approving only what we initially set out to do, specifically align these processes to all go through the planning board. No
Second.
changes to any zoning setbacks.
So what that means is you're approving the first reading with the change to page 11, whereby the strike-through will be removed on the multifamily district setbacks on interior lots and changing docks and lifting devices to accessory marine facilities.
That should be in the
So
motion.
to be clear, there's no actual changes to any of the zoning itself besides making them all special exceptions.
By approving the first reading, making those 2 minor changes on page 11 under section 6D, all you're doing is, all these changes it goes to the planning board for approval of all marine facilities. That's what this would do, only.
Question, Mr. Labadie? Is anyone on the planning board have a marine facility, boater license, captain license, any background, contractor, anything?
If you see my recent recommendations, we hopefully will have somebody in the near future.
Okay,
So what we're going to do with what option you do have, which hasn't been deployed, I can't speak to why, but Ingrid has reached out to a marine expert that's utilized in the city of Boca, so we will start using a marine expert, similar to how Mr. Hillman was indicating that we should be reviewing these through the marine expert, which is provided for us, but we just haven't done that in the ordinance. Currently in the ordinance, we have the right to stop, have a marine expert review it, then get it to the planning board, and that's the process that Ingrid's going to be using. We're working with that consultants, getting us a proposal, tying it together. I talked with Glenn. All of these things are in motion. Now, to answer your question, I don't know if they have certain specialized marine licensures. I'm guessing most of our residents don't have that, most.
Well, I could tell you, Eric Goldenberg always had a boat. He just recently
But
got rid of it.
doesn't-
But I don't know,
And if I could, if the motion was going to be to approve that ordinance with those 2 changes, there was one more change on page 12. You wanted to take out certified mail and make it regular mail.
Yeah, it's there.
That's just one.
It's right there.
Mine says certified mail return receipt. Yours is out.
Yeah, looks like it's
Okay,
good.
then it was already
He's
correct.
talking about
Must
two.
have an old version.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got the old version. Okay, but let's repeat the motion that we're voting on now.
Oops, no, it isn't.
Vice Mayor Bobby,
you're
can
right.
you repeat your motion?
Yes, I can. So I move that we get back to approving what we initially set out to do, specifically align these processes to all go through the planning board. No changes to zoning or setbacks in this ordinance.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, roll call.
Vice Mayor Bobby?
Yes.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman?
No, and the reason is I wish to do it in the opposite order. I would rather get the expert on board and get the planning board beefed up with experts and then make this decision. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Mayor Zellniger.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
And then
Okay.
I would see the last motion, I think
the
that you
last
wanted
motion.
is
Is it
to take the
necessary?
big picture and direct staff to start on the big picture marine stuff with the planning board. Start taking a look at adjacent communities, doing that initial research, and start that process, that slow, purposed process to look at how we handle all of these items. I know we've heard floating vessel platforms and all this new tech. We need to take a look at that systematically to see if our ordinance is okay. Because it really depends on who your attorney is.
Want to go for it?
Go ahead. This is your
Go
baby.
ahead.
Okay. I will move to request that the town manager and the town planner invite the firm that advised Boca Raton for marine-related codes to come and present to us. Actually, to present to the planning board. I think we should at
To
least
the planning board.
hear who they are first before we hire
Just
them and
as
just
a
get going.
presentation, or do you want to start on evaluating our ordinance, our regulatory framework for marine facilities?
I'd like to hear who they are and what they do before I
Okay.
personally want to do anything else, but.
Okay, that's fine, okay.
I have a question.
Is there a second?
We need a second, then we can have a discussion on the motion.
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, discussion on the motion. Peggy?
My question is, there has been some concern about commissioners attending board meetings, and this is coming from a legal perspective from via friends of mine who are commissioners in other municipalities, that they frown upon it because it looks, even if with facial gesture or input or clapping, it could be misconstrued as affecting the board from a commissioner standpoint. So I'm just saying, would it be better to have the information come to the commission and have the planning board attend?
If the commission wants to hear it directly, yes.
That's what I'm asking, because I often watch meetings on TV because it was advised to me that it would be a more prudent method of working, to not be in person.
I'm happy to let you modify my motion if you want. I mean, I'm kind of indifferent where the presentation goes to, as long as we're all there.
Thinking it might be more prudent for everyone. And I don't know, Mr. Torcivia, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, we're just going to, as Marshall, we're going to make sure on the procurement process that whoever we're inviting, we've gone through the right process to get them on board. And then, yeah, it's up to you all whether you want to come to the commission first and the planning board members can attend or vice versa. Makes no
I would
difference.
just be more comfortable ethically with that. That's all right?
I don't think, as long as commission members don't speak at board meetings, I don't see that there's a real issue with just attending and listening.
Well, I was advised differently, so that's why I'm just putting it out there.
Well, again,
I mean,
in your.
we're a small town. Either way.
In
it's
your
all right.
rules of interaction, we do caution participation in advisory boards and committees. Doesn't mean you can't attend, but you have to be very cautious of your participation. So other than that, it's up to the commission. Whatever you choose, we'll move in that direction. But you want the marine expert to just give you a presentation on emerging trends and services they provide, or to help us after they've already taken a look at what we've done and give us their opinion? I'm trying to get a little, what do you want them to present, one way or the
Well,
other?
if they're just going to be presenting to us who they are, perhaps then we should invite several to come and present who they are, and then we can decide who to hire, and then let them work with the building department and the planning board.
May I ask a question to the new town planner?
Yeah, Ingrid's here. Hi, Ingrid. Come on up.
Come on, Ingrid.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You may or may not know this answer, but are there multiple firms like this that have advised the towns around us, such as Ocean Ridge and Boca? I believe you're familiar with
I'm sure there
these.
are multiple firms.
Okay.
Yes.
Understood. Thanks.
Yes.
So in that case, then it's a kind of a moot point if you're basically saying to go RFP the services. If that's what you're asking for, it's coming to you anyway. So we don't need a presentation because you're going to get it, because we're going to have to write a scope of work, have them all go through that traditional CCNA process and come aboard. And that way you get to interview all of them that are in the wheelhouse unless there's a huge difference, but it's professional services, so you'll get an opportunity to interview them.
Just so we don't inundate you with a ton of work, what do you two think about inviting the one from Boca to come present? So then the commission can actually hear what they do and we can decide if it's something we do want to move forward. And if so, then you can do an RFP for others, opposed to you having to do an RFP. We hear from one, we're like, oh, that's not at all what we wanted. Sorry for your wasted time.
Madam Mayor, could I weigh in on that?
Yes.
I would agree with the Vice Mayor because of several reasons. One is if you have a 911 call in the water, Boca police boats answer 90% of the time. 2, we share a waterway and a boundary there. 3, they have a massive lake in Lake Boca, and so they're very efficient in their water methods and surveying. And 4, we have Ingrid, who's from Boca. So it would make sense, save time, perhaps funding, to bring in this person. I feel that Boca's waterways are very well managed. We go out the Boca Inlet all the time, and it's very, very well managed.
I think we're crossing over to the town manager's job. It's our job to set the policy and advise him what we would like, and he would come back to us, and he'll work with the city planner, and he'll come back to us with what he feels is correct. That's my own personal opinion. Because I think we have to be very careful
Generally,
with
that's
this.
an option, but again, if it's something
Yeah.
very specific, we've seemed to have hit a nerve a touch, so let's make sure we get it right, so you guys feel comfortable moving forward. So if you want them to come in, and I'm sure they would be glad to come in and tell you what they do. We do have the right under procurement that we can bring them on. Based on the scale of the work, I can independently approve a contract with the firm, or if it seems like we're gonna be well above the threshold that we have in place for a town manager, then we would then have to explore that RFP. But you can meet them just to see what it is. What is a marine expert? What is it that they do? What is their expertise? How do they help municipalities? And maybe that's where we start.
Who do they work with and what do they do for Boca?
Yeah, right. I think
Yeah.
that might be a good kicking off point for all of us to see where we're at and how we are going to start moving forward with this.
Okay, I forgot already what the motion was. We're
Well,
getting too sidetracked.
I'll modify it.
Yeah,
So,
please just make a
in
motion.
an attempt to.
Before
Okay,
you do,
let's
if I
stay
could-
focused.
If I
Okay.
could, I totally confused here. Okay.
Yeah, it is confusing.
Okay. We've got a couple of things floating around. We've got a need to have someone help us. We have a need to engage in some research with some expertise to give us some input on how to craft an ordinance. That's sort of at the end of the game. We are looking for a little bit of an orientation from someone to give us an idea of what does that group do. And then we've got an RFP for continuing services to evaluate. So we have perhaps 2 RFPs in here and 1 education session, if I'm not mistaken. Is that where we're heading?
It's probably one RFP because a decent or a proficient marine expert is going to be able to make the presentations, tell you the subject matter that they study and understand and what there is and what you have to be careful of, because that's what they do day in, day out. It's a matter of what firm you want. We can simply move to Boca's firm. We can do that because I don't see there being a mountain of work for this firm, meaning they're going to be doing $50,000 to $100,000 unless you guys tell me something I'm missing on a project you want them to work on. So we can bring them in to assist and do we'll probably have to bring them on soon if we're starting to have a lot of marine facilities. We have a couple issues that I've emailed you about that we're going to need a marine expert immediately. We get them on a small scale. They start doing some quick residential reviews, but then they can come in and say, here's what we do, here's the services, here are the things you need to be looking forward to, and here's who we service and what we do for them, and that kind of gives you the big picture.
And that's what concerns me. I think the current wording, we've asked you to hold off on that.
I can't hold off entirely,
can't.
but I can
Well,
limit the scope of engagement in
consultant.
the interim period while we take a bigger look at everything.
Right, you have to really modify that because we have to be careful. We're supposed to be just setting policy, advising our manager what we want to do. Then he comes back to us with his suggestions with the city planner.
Agreed. It's a bit of a circular reference, though, because we need to understand what these firms do, or at least we should hear
We
what
should
these
know.
firms do.
Yeah, well,
So-
of course, I'm not saying not, but maybe she can send us a blurb of what they do from them. Maybe they have a resume or whatever. But it's really up to the town manager and.
So you want to hear a presentation from a marine expert on
That's
the
what he wants
subject
to
matter? Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Okay. Got it. You don't really need a formal motion. I'll bring one to you.
Even
Yeah,
better.
Got
that's
it.
his job. Okay.
Yeah, it was proof, yeah.
Because we can't start micromanaging. That's, as a commission, that's very important that we do not micromanage. Okay. So there were two different motions that we passed.
Yep.
Okay, so everything is tabled. You got it. Okay. What are we up to now here? Let's see, 2001. Now we're going to a resolution, which is everyone got it? It's B, resolution number 20-001, declaration of unity of Title 4, 4425 Tranquility Lane, Drive, not lane, Tranquility Drive. I refer this item to the town manager.
Yes, this is basically a unity. The PAPA, which is the Palm Beach Property Appraiser's Office, recognizes this property as already combined without our unity of title. So we need to do a unity of title to legally unify those two parcels, and they just want to do that. So they're adjacent. There's no structures on the adjacent property. So it's very similar to what you recently did with the Benjamin property across the street without a project affixed to it, but basically you're linking the two properties.
Okay, and I'm assuming that they have, all the specifications are within what we changed. Yeah,
Yes, legal has reviewed it and legal has approved it for legal sufficiency.
okay. So at this time, I'll ask Commissioner David, any comments?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be that there's any reason why we wouldn't approve this.
Yeah.
So therefore, let's approve it.
Okay, Commissioner Donaldson?
No comments.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman?
Yes, excuse me. This is the fifth unity of title since I was elected. It's kind of cool. Our lots are getting larger, and we're getting these estates. So I think it's fine, too. I've been by the property many times. They're actually neighbors of mine, and I think it's a great move. Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor?
I get to look at this property outside my back window every day. So
Okay.
please
Are you-
unify it.
It's unified? Okay, and I agree. There's no issue here. Okay? Let's have, all right, anybody have any comments, pro, con, from the audience? Hearing none, we will continue, and being there's no further discussion from the commission, let's have a vote and a motion. First, I need the motion.
I will make a motion to unify the property as requested.
Second.
Okay, so Vice Mayor Bobby,
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson,
Yes.
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman,
Yes.
Mayor Zellniger.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Now we go to item number C, resolution number 20-002, 2020. Thank you. I appreciate you stayed the whole meeting. Okay, thank you. Okay, a 2020 revised Palm Beach County Local Mitigation Strategy Plan. I refer this item to Town Manager Laverty.
It's a lot of technical stuff in there, but basically the overarching county mitigation plan has been modified. If we wish to qualify for hazard mitigation grants, we shall approve the attached items, which basically allows us to pursue and follow the county plan as it relates to our mitigation strategy. So basically, if we have a natural disaster and we want a hazard mitigation grant or hazard mitigation grants to preempt a potential future, which may come out of the Coastal Resiliency Partnership, we have to be on page with the county or we don't qualify. We're not recognized. So this is relatively straightforward. There's a huge document. There's 300 pages. If you're trouble sleeping, jump into it. But basically, this allows us to qualify and be consistent with the county to qualify for hazard mitigation grants and part of that strategy.
Okay, Commissioner David?
This is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it, we put ourselves at risk. Therefore, let's just agree.
Commissioner Donaldson?
A quick question. How are we doing on photo documenting our assets as documentation against damage should something unforeseen occur? Or
As far as,
Photographs of conditions of structures, equipment, kind of a photo journal against that
let me get
unfortunate
back to you on
time.
that. I don't know. I know our insurance company does it, but I don't
they
know
do,
that we
okay.
have our own.
Okay.
But let me look into that.
It's a good point.
I recall that, at the League of Cities conference we attended, the manager of the town up in the
Yeah.
Panhandle was talking about how difficult it was to have this documentation on hand that FEMA and other groups wanted in order to prove some damage had occurred or indicate that there was that asset in existence. So
I think we're good, or we're going to be good. Chief is nodding at me. He's our emergency expert, so yes. Okay.
thank you. All right. Yeah, we're good on this. A little housekeeping thing. Great. Thank you.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman,
All good, thank you.
Vice Mayor,
All good with it.
and there's no problem with it, otherwise we put the town in jeopardy, so. It's better to have it and get money. Okay, and at this time, public comments are now open. Yes, John.
John Ross Casarina. Have any members of this commission read the document?
We all got,
You did?
we did get it, yes.
So one
I did.
person's read it?
No, I skimmed through it, yes.
Did the public get it?
300 pages. Was there a link saying to come to the count?
A link would work.
Yeah.
I know it was actually a thick packet, the 300-page packet.
Yeah.
I don't think it wasn't included in their packet.
So you didn't get it in your paper packet.
It was electronically.
It was online. It was online when we got the, yeah, it was.
We'll be sure to, you want to specifically want a copy, we'll mail it directly to you, email
No,
it
you
to
didn't give me a link.
Okay.
I'm perfectly happy to get a link.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was
Okay.
in there. Okay.
Regardless of the threat part, which is if you don't, you won't. As we just learned from the previous discussion, it's a good idea to read before approving. Very simple. And it's, I guess, required that you make it available to the public. That's it.
I thought it was in the email of the agenda.
Yeah, may I make a point, however? According to our summary here, this has to be adopted by January 20th.
Yeah.
Since our next meeting is on the 21st, if we don't adopt it today, we're not going to be part of this. So we don't have a choice in the matter right now.
Yes, so on a twofold, yes, there's a sense of urgency behind it. And two, yes, we'll make sure it's clearly identifiable to the public to get it. Anybody can't seem to find it, call Teresia. She's the one coordinating all of this, and we'll get you whatever you need.
Okay, any other comments? No? Commissioners, any other discussion? And I need a motion to adopt Resolution 20002.
I move that we adopt Resolution 20002.
Second?
Second.
Roll
Okay.
call?
Commissioner David,
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bobby,
Yes.
and Mayor Zellniker.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we move to consent agenda, none. Unfinished business, none. Then we go to new business, number 12. Application 19-0006, Jeffrey Norman, Stuart Olstein, 2352 South Ocean Boulevard. Consider an application by Jeffrey Norman representing Stuart Olstein for approval of a new 150-square-foot marginal dock, installation of a new seawall and seawall cap, and installation of new batter piles located at 2352 South Ocean Boulevard. This, I believe, is now a quasi-judicial hearing, a public hearing? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and then you have to swear anybody in who's speaking. Is there anyone here that will be speaking on this topic? Are you speaking on it? We have to swear you in. Thank you.
Ingrid, you too. Okay, thank you.
Please raise your right hand. By invested in me as a notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes.
Okay. You can both remain standing if you like, in case there's any questions from the commission. Do any commissioners have disclosure or ex parte communications on this item? If so, please disclose any ex parte communications. None?
I drove by and looked at it by boat. That doesn't count though, does it?
I know, ask the city attorney.
No, you're
He's
good.
okay, no, you're good. Commissioner Donaldson, any ex parte?
No.
Vice Mayor? No, and I don't have any, I don't know the people either. Okay, now we have, who's going to explain this? I guess our city planner. And we just want to know that all the codes were followed.
Hey, again, for the record, Ingrid Allen. So this item did go before the Planning and Zoning Board on December 12th. And if you look at the staff report, it does indicate that the seawall component of this request does go before the Town Commission. So you're really only looking at the seawall component. The other components of the request have already been approved by the Planning and Zoning Board. So the applicant is proposing, again, with regards to the seawall, to replace an existing 80-foot linear concrete seawall and install a new 60-inch concrete seawall cap. Pursuant to Section 6-128 of the Town Code, bulkhead seawalls and retaining walls require approval by all federal, state, and county agencies with jurisdiction over such construction activities, as well as approval by the Town Commission. That said, the applicant has obtained both Army Corps and FDEP approvals, and pursuant to the Town Code, marine facilities require a 25-foot side setback, which the applicant has complied with. And the Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval, and I'll be happy to address any questions. And the applicant is here as well.
Okay. Commissioner David, any questions?
I'm assuming that this is directly on the intercoastal.
Yes.
So then Army Corps of Engineers
That's
really
correct.
applies.
That triggers the Army Corps review.
Thank you.
Commissioner Donaldson?
No questions.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman?
Oh, I looked at it and it did meet our codes, the setback, the Army Corps permits, DEP, so I think it's, they did a great job on this. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
I love this stuff. I've actually never seen the engineer Alan Garcia's work before, but this is really detailed. It looks great.
Looks good. Okay, and I also, as long as we have the blessing of our city planner and the planning board, I'm a go with it. The applicant, you may now make a presentation if you want. Applicant, please come to the podium and provide your name, address, and affiliation with this project if you have anything to say.
My name's Joseph Gilio from C-Tech Construction. I'm here on behalf of J.H. Norman and Mr. Alston. We're glad that we're adhering to everything on this project and hope it adds some value to your community.
Thank you, and we appreciate your hard, good work. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a comment? If so, then please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. No? Okay, this is the time for the commissioners to question. We did the staff already, applicant or the public. Anyone have anything to ask, any questions of the applicant? No. Nope. Okay. Commission discussion, not necessary. Is there a motion to approve the application 19-006?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I second.
Put in there 19-006.
Okay.
2 zeros.
Vice Mayor Bobby?
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman?
Yes.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
And Mayor Zellniker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we've deleted B, the other discussion. So now we go to C. Discussion on designating one commissioner or one advisory board member to the negotiation team for the collective bargaining union contract. I refer this item to Town Manager Labadie.
Thank you, Mayor. In 2017, when we established the new 3-year contract for the police union and then the initial contract, 3-year contract for the general employees, the commission chose to designate or appoint Vice Mayor Bobby, at that time was the chair of the FAB, to the negotiation team to participate and assist in moving it forward. And with that being said, we are now entering into our current contracts will expire in October of 2020. We have a meeting later this month with Mr. Feederson, who's our labor attorney, Chief and I, and the labor attorney, so Matt Lala as well in finance. So we're looking for that member if you desire to be appointed, so we can move along. So I strongly encourage one, again, because of the sunshine laws, just one, either be an FAB or a commissioner. But I think there is some value that would be added, some insights. It does help that it's a good experience. I'll let Mr. Bobby speak to that if he wishes to how his experience went. But it was very valuable. We spent a lot of time going over the figures and the numbers. Again, inevitably, the final decision rests with the commission. We will have a series of appropriate closed sessions to move through those negotiation steps, but then eventually taking an approval action in open session. So I turn that over to the commission. How do you feel? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go with this?
Commissioner David?
I recommend that we appoint Doug Hillman from the FAB.
I would like to see the FAB chairman continue to represent us on that board, or on that endeavor.
If with that being said, Mr. Stern is the chair, Mr. Hillman is the vice chair. Just,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Gosses-Seidman, any comments?
Just questions, since at one point, Mr. Hillman will assume the mayoral seat. Is there a conflict or problem with that if he starts as FAB and concludes as mayor?
It still will be it will still be a single person. It will just move from being the FAB to the mayor or a commission member at that time. So you get kind of maybe the best of both worlds. You get the FAB member and a commissioner. That ends up being the, so, it could be.
Okay, that's cool.
Could work for
I'm
you.
fine with that. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Commissioner David. I couldn't agree with you more. So I was exactly what I was going to say, the best of both worlds. Mr. Hillman's the perfect person for this. He's worked in large organizations. He's dealt with a lot more labor than I've ever dealt with, so he's the perfect candidate.
Well, I agree that he's certainly qualified and he will be the mayor. However, I do have to say, Vice Mayor Bobby came in at a very rough time and has the experience of what happened in the town at that time. We got, actually, Greg was involved when he was with the FAB. He's been working with this. Originally, the town did not have a union. We did not have a union. And some things occurred with the previous commissions that we now have the union. A lot of things were taken away and a union was formed. I just feel that Greg has the experience and he has the background knowledge, but we could certainly, I'm sure Greg could work with the new
But
mayor.
he doesn't apparently want it.
Well, that's, I don't know. Did you say you don't want it? No, you didn't say that.
In a matter-of-fact way, I kind of did.
You kind of did. Well, I don't know, but you have a lot of the background to it, but you'll work with Doug Hillman. I'm certainly happy that Doug, he's the mayor of, he'll be the mayor of the town, and he could be involved, and you'll have to get him up to snuff.
Carefully assist and frame moving forward, but can't discuss.
Well, you can't discuss, but he would have to go, well, we could go over the history with him, too. Okay.
Since he's present, should we not ask Mr. Hillman if he would care to serve?
Well, he said no also. No, you have to do it. He has to do it. Okay. Well, he's the mayor. He'll be the mayor. And we'll help. Well, I won't be on the commission. I will help you. Okay. From the far back. I could talk to him about the history of it all. Yeah. Okay. At this time, public comments are now open. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes. Would anybody like to make a comment on this? Nope. Seeing no comments, any other commission discussions? Nope. Okay, so it says here, see how the commission goes, and let's make a motion. We need a motion and a second, and that's fine.
There was a motion.
Okay, there is a motion?
Yep.
I will second it.
Okay.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bobby?
Yes.
And Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett-Seidman?
Yes.
And Mayor Selniker?
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Now we come to the discussion of the waste management contract extension. And I refer this item to Town Manager Labadie.
Yes, we're currently in a 5-year contract, which we inked in 2014. Again, the contract was in the agenda packet and for your review. Again, that is set to expire in May 2020. Within that contract, we have a relatively unique provision. What I mean by unique, that we have a unilateral right to extend for 3 years. Most contracts require some type of bilateral agreement from both parties, but this one, it's all on us to decide if we want a 3-year extension with Waste Management. With that contract, the other unique feature we have is we have a backstop on an increase. So basically, it's the rate of inflation or a 3% cap. Right now, inflation, I think the Vice Mayor had sent me an email, is around 2.2%. Is the inflationary rate. So that would be what you would see as your increase in your rates for solid waste collection services. We have an interesting thing in our contract that when I spoke with the waste management representative is relatively unique to us. I think Gulfstream has it too. It's a 3-person service operation, meaning there's 3 men on a truck rather than an automated service where it's just 1 or maybe 2. Because of all of our condos with different points of access to get to the dumpsters and different collection areas, certain streets which require, reversing it, having a flagman to reverse it up the street and things of that nature. So we required that for safety. It was a provision we had written in, so that gets maintained. The reason why I would say that is we have to be cognizant of when we want to say that what other rates are out there. Is there a better rate that we could obtain by going out to an RFP? I included in here the rates that you're seeing in other places. And what you have to keep an eye on is some of these rates that might be a little bit lower than ours, that are a little bit lower, those are automated services, meaning they're just going up, hooking the bin and throwing it out. And again, they have a 2-cart service in these communities that are automated. We have a single cart with a bin for recyclables. Plus, we have about 8 or 9 different types of dumpsters that get serviced. So an automated service is going to be a little bit difficult for us to get to. I mean, it's something over the long term we could consider, but again, the extension is relatively attractive. I would strongly encourage you to consider it, looking in the marketplace, and you can hear some of the issues out there. We don't have any service complaints. They come, they get their trash, they make a mistake, they honor it, as you see from that general release. So if they do something that's wrong, they've honored their terms and their contracts. That's always good to keep in the back of the mind. Again, our rate that we currently have is about $4.50 lower than the next bidder that we had. We only had 2 bidders last time because of the 3-man service. Waste Management is a known entity product, again, insurable, not new to the marketplace. We would have to expect some service issues when a new person would assume, if a new person was to assume the service, because they've never been here into our condos and understand how that works. Competitors don't tell each other the tricks of how to service, so we would, in a sense, have a little bit of some growing pains, and there's some value that you would have to place on that externality. So with that being said, you see that there's a contract. I think it's attractive. I think you should give it a real strong consideration. However, should you wish to move in another direction, we are prepared, but I need some guidance today, because if we want to go out for an RFP, we got to get on the streets real quick. We have 5 other RFPs out there. We're getting practice in it, at least in the manager's office, writing all these RFPs. But again, I just need to know moving forward. I could answer any questions in there. Now, Waste Management had asked for a different indices to use as the increase. I would say don't do that. There's nothing reason for you to do that. And I would just keep it as it's written in the contract. It's clean. It'll be easy for Glenn and I, if you so choose, to get that extension in place. So today I just need to know, do you or do you not want to move forward with the extension?
Commissioner David?
Based on the cap, based on the comparables that we have here, it seems that we are in a good position, particularly since we have a 3-man team as opposed to a 2. I would go along leaving it with, as written in the contract. I wouldn't give them a different increase level.
Commissioner Donaldson?
I'm somewhat familiar with this. I was on the committee that did the RFP screening and interviewing for this particular contract, so I understand the provisions very well. And thank you for pointing out those oddities in our community. It's certainly, in trying to compare us to others, we do have to take that into consideration. I don't have any problem with extending this without going out for new RFPs. I think it's very favorable to us. Do have a question about the one little item that was brought up about writing into the contract their participation in some of our events. Is there a legal reason for doing that? So, we're not doing an inducement kind of thing here?
Well, they could. They do help sponsor a couple of our events. I think in the Light Up the Holidays about, it's about $1,500 a year. They probably help, a little bit less than that. And they just want to make sure it's written in the contract. Ellen's a nice woman. We've all met her. I think maybe I was hoping that she could get that other indices a little bit. Hey, if we put this in here, but I don't see them not continuing to support. But we can add that into the extension clause that they are going to participate and assist with those events. I think regardless of your decision on which indices, which I would say just keep the contract the way it is, that we could say that we could memorialize their support and participation in our 2 events, community events.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I don't see any problem with extending it. I do have a question, and I want to reiterate that I'd like to make it as simple and clean as possible for our attorney and our manager, because we do have an interesting situation. My question is of the town manager: why do we have so many various sizes of collection points from different associations, buildings? How did that happen? And how do other towns handle that? I was sort of amazed that they have to back out of many communities, and we have every which way different sizes of collection points. Is this just a lack of our code, or
Probably,
what happened?
and I think it's just a development over time. What was the emerging trend in, the late 70s compared to the early 80s to, I think we just maybe didn't really think much to it. You don't think about where's the dumpster corral located, how is that structured, ease of access, size. And then on the internal design, when you have, say, one of our larger condos, I think it's 240 units in there, how they process, handle trash within their internal service quarters. I just think that that really wasn't thought of. It's kind of like stormwater. We didn't think about it 40 years ago. Now we'd be like, geez, it'd be nice if it was all uniform. And then we could say, hey, let's talk about automated service, 2 dumpsters. It would be clean, neat, tidy. But we just have this kind of difference between buildings, and we just have to work on it. And that's why we requested the 3-person service. You could try to get away with 2. I'm sure if we went out to bid, some would try to get us to 2. But as I researched it, we've really wanted the 3 for safety and assistance in doing those things.
And I understand it, just so the public understands, that the company actually had to manufacture certain bins for buildings in our town.
Correct.
They had to go out and get to their development group and manufacture the buildings, the pickups for the buildings. And again, I'm just wondering if this is common, and how do other towns handle it, or it's just the way that we grew and developed?
That's probably
It just
part of our
hit me
unique
as like
sense of
weird.
place.
I see. Okay, that's fine. I appreciate it. And I do think we should extend it. I don't have any other comments, and thank you for the help.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this. I'm normally a big fan of RFPs. However, it is a good extension. Looking at and I would have asked for the same thing if I was the waste management company. What they asked to move to is what's called the Water, Sewer, and Trash Index, because that is what they're doing for a living. Trash is getting more and more expensive, though. So even though the index they want to move to is 2.3% last year versus all urban CPI, which is 2.1%. There's no deflationary items in trash, water, and sewer. So that 2.3% could easily get to 3% pretty quickly. Where the index we have actually has items like clothing and computers and a bunch of other stuff that experience deflation. So we should definitely stick with the index that that we have in the contract. And for those of us who attended the event up in Orlando, the annual event, every waste management provider was up there. They all want to connect with the community. They all want to sponsor events. They all sponsored everything possible up there. So I think it's good to be sensitive about them wanting to sponsor, but I can't imagine any other vendor not wanting to sponsor. So I would extend it in its current terms.
I agree. I'm all for it. We'll keep them. I do want to just mention one little thing. Quite a number of residents have a concern. When the garbage pickup is on A1A and you have 3 men in the truck, and when the private houses, and what happens is the traffic gets backed up, and then what happens, people are going around that truck. And we have a number of older residents in the community. I was wondering if maybe we can just ask them nicely. Maybe the guy who's sitting in the truck should just come out and put his hand up and say, don't go. They're never going to do it. I don't know. I had a number of people talk about the safety issue.
I will be more than glad to bring that up with Waste Management to see if there's other improvements that they can make. Because, again, safety is, if you look at their business model, the one thing that kills them is workers' comp. So they try to be cognizant and safe at all times.
I wonder if our police department, just one officer.
Well, now that Chief's not here, we'll just have a police car follow him, huh? No,
Not follow him. It's just people. You know what I'm talking about. When the garbage truck is there, it's very difficult to go around.
Yeah. So I'll try to
You could
see
ask
if there's some
about
things
that.
they could do
Yeah,
with safety.
but definitely they've been very, very good all these years. So I have no problem with it. Okay, at this time, any public comments? Okay, John?
John Ross, Casarina. The first place, I love competitive bidding. This is a contract for waste collection. It's paid for by property owners. It's not paid for by you guys, by the town, except, I guess, for the garbage they collect here. So it is, in fact, a tax on them. Are you getting the best price for that? 1, you're not. 2, over the first life of the contract, it increased 20% over the period of 5 years. Not the extension is at a cheaper rate, okay? Although the CPIU can vary from year to year. 3rd, all damages, and there isn't a condo and most of the buildings that haven't suffered damages because of, during the course of garbage collection, are liquidated damages. That is, we are agreeing on the part, on the basis of the property owners, to limit the liability for damages to a set amount for each type of damage in there, denying them the right to adjudicate damage to their property. All of these are clauses that should not be here. We should have consequential damages, or they should be allowed to adjudicate. Consequential damages mean what it costs the property owner to get fixed are the damages they get paid instead of a set amount of $500 or $1,000 when a garbage truck knocks down the sign in front of your condo, okay, which could cost thousands to do. All of these show us as being awfully free with property owners' money. And this is, in effect, a tax. Okay, you're collecting from them. Not only is it a tax, but you're required, the town is required, to go after the property money on behalf of Waste Management. Somehow you've got to enforce that if they don't pay. These aren't great terms. And while the financial part gets a little bit better, all of the other consequences don't. Okay? The secret to getting best price is to bid. especially when it's not your money. And OPM is very easy, other people's money. But remember, I pay for it in my condo dues. Greg pays it directly, okay? And it is what it is. It's more money out of his pocket for a municipal activity. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have anything to say? No? Okay. We'll go back to the commission. Commissioner David, any comments to that?
Yes, just one. The lowest price is not always the best. You can get a painter in and get 3 painters, and you want a job done a particular way, and you know that the guy who comes in lowest is not going to possibly do it the way you want it. Therefore, I believe most people in this town have been happy with the garbage collection. Marshall, correct me if I'm wrong. Have there been any a lot of complaints?
I have not received one solid waste service complaint.
So it's a known quantity at what certainly appears to be a reasonable price. So I would take the extension at this point, because you don't know what you're getting from somebody else.
Is that a motion?
Wait.
Sure, that's a motion.
Well, wait, we have to have a
It's-
discussion. Wait, okay. Well, you want to have a second and then have the discussion on the motion? Yeah, okay, so have a second then.
All right, I move that we extend the waste management contract by the 3 years with the terms we currently have.
Second.
Okay, now a discussion on the motion. So, Commissioner Donaldson?
I'm fine with this. Thank you for pointing that out. There are ramifications. If we went out for a new RFP and we built in all these other things, we're going to end up with a more expensive contract. They aren't just going to hand you coverage for nothing. So we seem to be in pretty good shape. It's good terms. I'm good with this.
Peggy?
Yes, thank you. I did originally think we should have an RFP, and I did think we should look at the other companies, 2 of which I met with during League of Cities. They tried to meet with everyone there. And I will tell you, there's only one other town in the county, and that's Gulfstream, who requires 3 guys on the truck because of their narrow streets. This information provided by Mr. Labadie. And then if we went with another company, we'd have to remanufacture these pickup bins. And we're just got ourselves in a situation where we're short of time to extend this. And yet we have all these very particular, very quirky particulars to our town. And so perhaps down the road we can look at other bids, but I don't know of anyone who would come on board very quickly, manufacture bins, put a 3rd guy on the truck, and take over under a time duration that we have. And so that's why I voted to go ahead and move forward on this at this time. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I take Mr. Ross's comments certainly seriously. You're right, it's other people's money. It also is a certain level of service. Marshall, I think you had, just to clarify, is there a risk that we lose the current terms if we did RFP it? And could you even possibly RFP it before this term comes up?
That was an interesting twist. I didn't have legal weigh-in on that, to be honest, but the concept that you're discussing is we go out to RFP, we don't like the RFPs, throw it out, and then go back to Waste Management and say, we're going to extend. You want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, that's a possibility. There's also the risk that Waste Management then says no. And again, this is always a high-profile issue, expensive issue, waste collection, and I'll tell you this, there are currently kind of less providers in Palm Beach County than there were recently. I know Republic has pulled out of Palm Beach County, for example, so this may not be the best time to go out for bid. And I'm usually an advocate for bidding as well, but everything Marshall explained in this contract and this extension and these rates, there's a pretty good chance that this is the best deal, a very good chance this is the best deal you're going to get. And especially when you're talking about the 3-person on a rig, that's not the norm anywhere else in the area other than Gulfstream. So, but the question of whether they would honor or not,
Well,
I'd
they're
like to
not
say-
legally
I'd like-
obligated to honor, though, correct?
I'd like to say yes, but right, they could take the position that, no, we're not.
Right, so that was my biggest concern, is because it's not a free option for us. If we RFP and they do walk away and say, sorry, here's our new level in our RFP, oh, it didn't work for you, too bad. I'm concerned that we have a good level of service and it's a fair extension. I do think we should actually bid it out again after this, and I think we have to anyway, right, because there's no more extensions beyond this.
It's a net, with it's the net, yes.
If we were generic and 2 people on the truck instead of 3, I would be much more in favor of bidding it out. But being such a unique sense of place as we are, and the last time we only got 1 other bid, I'd rather not lose this over a technicality.
To point out that if you look at the price up for Gulfstream, they're at $36 and we're at $13.24. So it seems to me that we have a good deal since they're the only other place that has a 3-man rig.
Theirs is a little bit unique because they get it from the garage. They have garage service. So for triple the price, basically, they'll walk up to your garage and take your bins for you.
I believe, Mr. Labadie, you had noted that in some towns, they go into your kitchen. Would you like to explain that?
They offer
It's
that.
true.
I mean, that's
It's
something we
true.
could look at in the future, but I don't
No
know if I'd
joke.
want a garbage guy tramping through my house.
Right.
But
they do.
But they do offer, any custom level of service you want. They'll go into your house, take it out of your kitchen collection, and do all that. But it gets, again, just think of that price. It's just gonna escalate up if you want the white shoe service, where they're, coming into your house and, saying hi in the morning and grabbing your trash and
Making you coffee.
Wait. All right,
It's
Mr.
my-
Hillman wanted to say something, but I'd like to say something first, please, because I didn't speak yet. I've been on the board of directors for 15 years. I live in Regency Highland for 20 years. I have to honestly say, I've never had a problem with the garbage pickup. Now, we had different people 20 years ago. However, I've never, ever had a problem with the company that we're using now. We haven't had the situation. And I don't know, life is ironic because John and I go back a long way in 2013, 2014. Remember with the pipes in Bellito? Right, remember at the election you were saying, don't vote for the pipes in Bellito. A lot of people don't know what we're talking about. But anyway, they were water pipes and they were changed on A1A and they weren't changed on the side streets. And at that time you felt it wasn't, I guess you didn't want people to vote for the pipes in this.
No, I didn't think it should be connected
Oh, you didn't think it should,
to
the
water
houses.
plant rebuilding as a single item for people to be voting on.
Okay.
Two separate things.
They were 2 separate things. But I'm just saying sometimes, but sometimes I feel we're a community, we're a unique community, and we have to do things for each other. Because in my complex, I have 240 people. Yeah, okay, and that's all. I just feel that we are elected officials and, we have the people elect us hoping that we make the right decisions. But I honor what you said, and we should have, I'm not against that. Of course we should have, of course. But we should be going for RFQs. But in this particular case, I would vote for this, yes. But we didn't vote yet. Okay, and Doug Hillman?
I would like to point out also that it seems to me that services are being cut back, not being expanded. When I lived up north and I moved in, they would take the cans out from behind your house and then bring them back. And then at one point, they were only taking them out in the morning and you had to bring them back. And then by the time I moved, they weren't doing any of it. They were throwing the covers away and you had to bring it down and back. So that seems to be the trend as opposed to going for more service.
Okay, Mr. Hillman?
So if we had them come into our homes, what would the mill rate be? I just wanted to say, we did experience at Dalton Place a problem with their trucks and oil spills coming from the trucks, and they were ruining our pavers. And they came back, checked it out, and gave us a check for $6,500 to replace the pavers. So we didn't have a problem. I mean, they owned up to it, and I didn't read the contract, so I can't comment on the contract at all. Do what
Okay.
you think is right.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes? Go ahead. It's at my discretion, it's fine. Everyone should speak.
John Shoemaker, Highland Beach Club. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And this has been a great meeting, actually, for me, someone fairly new to this whole process. I thought your presentation was outstanding on, Milani Park. Yes, the team. Vice Mayor Bobby, excellent presentation, something that I did learn from. So I wanted to take this opportunity to say, okay, from my perspective, since when we get into contracts, this is my world. Got involved in a lot of contracts in my career. So as I'm reading this, there's one key thing that Marshall said. But the RFP process is always the preferred way to go. No question about that. I think everybody agrees. The risk, however, is the terms. And it seems that the terms in the existing contract are satisfactory and have done well. There's not one complaint. That's unbelievable. That's by itself. Think about it. Any 3-5-year contract not have one complaint? That is remarkable.
That's why it says strongly recommend. I usually don't say strongly in kind of stuff, yeah.
And now I understand. But from a price point of view, I have to believe it's fairly competitive because, this is trash management. It is pretty well understood out there. There are a lot of providers and the costs. You're not talking about getting gouged too much on trash management. But in this case, what's especially good is that you have a cap, right? That's the protection that's really needed. So with a track record that's good, then the question that I had before Doug came up was, well, what really is the instant of damages? Because I think John Ross brings up an excellent point, which is if these big trucks and narrow passageways cause damage to the condos, somebody's got to pay for it. But Doug, you've explained that. I can say from Highland Beach's standpoint, the club, we've not had that experience either.
Neither did I.
So to me, it's like, okay, understanding all of that, this is a no-brainer, approve it, move it, and roll.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Okay, at this time, I need a motion to accept this contract. Oh, you had it. This is it. Yeah, okay. Okay, at this point, let's just have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Commissioner Gossick-Seidman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bobby?
Yes.
Mayor Zellniker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go to E. We go to the advisory boards and committees interview and consideration to nominate one member to serve on the Financial Advisory Board for an unexpired term ending April 30th, 2021. Board application, Richard Greenwald, Subdivision, Bel Lido Community. And we have our interview, Mr. Greenwald, and he would like to serve on the Financial Advisory Board. State your name and address, please.
Richard Greenwald, 4308 Tranquility Drive.
Thank you. And would you like to say a little bit about why you'd like to be on the Financial Advisory Board?
I think it's, as has been pointed out, it's pretty easy to just sit out here and make comments, but I think if one is going to do that, then one should probably put some time in and actually serve. So I thought that this advisory board might be a reasonable fit for me to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you very much, and we do appreciate that you've been coming to our meetings for over a year, maybe longer. Okay, Commissioner David, any questions?
No questions, really, Dr. Greenwald. Thank you for applying. Thank you for the thoughtful comments that you have made in the past, and I think you will be a good addition to that board.
Thank you.
Commissioner Donaldson?
No questions, but yes, thank you. I think it's good to see you elevating your involvement. We've always enjoyed your comments, and I think you'll be a great addition to the board.
Thank you as well.
Okay. Commissioner Seidman?
Yes, thank you. And if I could just throw my 2 cents in as a neighbor of Dr. Greenwald's for 23 years. He has served in the past at Boca Raton Community Hospital in a very, very important role, if you'd like to expand on that, but that he had high regard. He did a lot of interfacing with the public and the physicians, and I do believe he has a good background in history as a minor or public policy or something. So anyway, based on that and his comments at these meetings, I've been pestering him for a couple of years to sign up for a board, and he did, so I wholeheartedly would like to move him forward. Thank you. If you'd like to brag on yourself, go ahead.
I wasn't planning on it. I mean, my background is really in the little
Resume.
summary that I presented. If anybody has any specific questions about why a physician thinks they're qualified to be on the Financial Advisory Board, I could answer them, but if you guys are okay with what you've read, then I don't need to go into any further
Vice Mayor?
detail.
The Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make a few comments. You're definitely qualified, obviously. Going back to the referendum, I spoke a bunch from the financial aspects of the referendum. And some of my framework and questions that I tried to answer actually came from Dr. Greenwald, reaching over the fence to me and saying, have you thought about this, this, and this? So you definitely have the financial acumen to be on this board. I actually think it's the right board for you to be on.
Thank you.
And as we all know, I'm a big fan of yours. I call him the town philosopher. He has a wonderful demeanor. He's calm, and he's just going to be a tremendous asset to Highland Beach. And I thank you for applying.
I hope I can live up to everyone's expectations.
You will. You have already. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. At this time, public comments are now open. If anyone has anything to say? No? And if not, we'll go on. Is there a motion to appoint Richard Greenwald to the Financial Advisory Board to serve an unexpired term ending April 30th, 2021?
I make a motion to appoint.
Okay, I need a second.
Second?
I need a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Gossick-Seidman?
Yes.
Commissioner David?
Yes.
Commissioner Donaldson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bobby?
Yes.
Mayor Zellniker?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Richard. Okay. Now we're up to 13. And we're up to agenda items only. Public comments are now open. I think everyone here knows the rules and regs. Okay. Is there anybody who would like to say anything? No? Okay. And then we're going to go into Town Commission reports. Commissioner David?
Nothing to report this time.
Commissioner Barry Donaldson?
I'll make note that on my calendar popped up a reminder that tomorrow's my 1-year anniversary on the Town Commission. So far, so good. Can't wait to see what the next couple of months bring.
Commissioner Peggy Gossick.
Yes, just one comment. After we do solidify the waste management situation, I would recommend maybe running in a newsletter or an email that we need to remind residents what may and may not be put out to curb. Because of late, there have been major appliances, 6-foot stacks of carpeting, other things that aren't really, I don't think, being a normal pickup for our waste management. So I thought it might be a good idea to put that out there.
Okay.
And otherwise, Happy New Year. Thank you.
Okay, and Vice Mayor?
I think I've chattered enough today for everybody, so no report.
No report, okay. All right, and I also want to say a healthy and a happy New Year. And let's all think of those poor kids going over now to Iraq. I saw the pictures in the news, and it could be anybody's child or grandchild. if we could just think of them. And before we go, I just wanted to make a couple of minor comments about the community greening. I want to thank the Commissioner Seidman for bringing this group in. I would like to know, though, or ask, do we send out specific invitations like we have our Environmental Advisory Board? Like, I would have liked them to see this, or maybe we can invite these people back to go to their meeting for information. And I don't know if the library would be interested in this or having this group come to speak. Years ago, we used to have every year, we had the Turtle people come to the library, remember? And it was always a sold out, and it cost no money, but it was always jam-packed with people. We have a lot of new residents. Maybe we should be doing that again this year to make people aware of our sea turtles in Highland Beach. And one last thing, and that is the new group that comes in. The commission has been working on our wake zone problem for many, many years. I would say before I even got involved 6 years ago. It's a major issue with the wake zones, and we've always tried, but we've never succeeded. But now we have a new manager, and I have full faith in him. Maybe we can do something. We thought about our own police boats or whatever, but because you said we have to be courteous, the boaters have to be courteous. But the boaters, when they come through Highland Beach, are going 100 miles an hour, some of them, and they're not courteous. And I've seen manatees, more than one, run over by a boat. So it all goes to code enforcement. It's been an issue in this town for years, at least the 20 years I've lived here. And he did the crosswalk lighting. So maybe he'll be able to work magic with the wake zones and the manatees. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, Marshall. I have a lot of confidence.
No work. Okay. So, we'll try on the wake zone. It seems like a monumental task, but maybe collectively it's something that the community...
Maybe you could work with Boca and Delray.
Again, just a quick update. We've been talking RFPs. There are 5 that we have queued up that will be out by the end of the month. We have 3 on the streets currently. One is our IT system for our enterprise resource planning, basically our financial system that ties to permitting, purchasing, cash receipts, and some utility billing. So all that stuff is out on the streets. We're hoping to open bids, or we are opening bids on the 28th of this month. Crosswalks are also out on the streets. We're opening bids on the 5th. And then we have our SCADA system programming instrumentation control contractor. That was advertised. We bid open on the 28th on that. And then we have an underground emergency contractor that's going to be advertised at the end of the month. We'll open on March 11th. And then we have our CCTV of the sanitary. It's our sanitary sewer evaluation. We're going to be advertising that at the end of the month. We have bid openings on March 10th. We have a couple more that are queued up potentially, and then the marine contractor, things of that nature. So we're out on the streets, we're moving it. Crosswalk is out for advertisement. So it's out there. It's on it's off of our desk. So now it's in the contracting world. So hopefully we'll get bids here at the end of the month. We'll get some good ones. We've had some initial feedback, even issued an addendum. So that's good. That means that people are interested in doing some work here. But Crosswalks is on the street. Hopefully we'll soon, from the direct appropriations, hopefully maybe we'll get some interest from that at the same time with the bid openings to see what exactly we can do. We basically have permits from FDOT. If contractors are watching, we have permits. We just have a couple maintenance agreements and paperwork. Again, we got to clean up with them in the pattern pavement option and stuff. They wanted some other whatever documentation. But crosswalks are coming. One way or another, some shape or another, it's coming. So that is off the ground, that is in queue. So we're excited about that. We have 2 more condos that have expressed interest for the visibility flags to kind of help with that. So the Regency came in on last month. This month we're going to get Coronado and the Highland Beach Club, so they're coming on board. So we'll see a couple more crossings that will have the visibility flags. We send out a courtesy email to everybody not to use those as weaponry or as a vehicle stop. We've seen some aggressive users. Again, it's just basically for visibility purposes, just so people see that you're at the crosswalk and not just kind of loitering at the side. But please be careful. But again, that should help with visibilities. I see they're getting used a lot, so that's great. Other condos that are out there that are interested, please let us know. We'll get Pat on it, and we'll get those in place. And again, census is coming. We've put out some stuff to, the Census Committee has provided some stuff to the condos. We're going to try to get out there, myself, the commission, the committee, to go out to all the condo groups and kind of talk about what the census means to us. It's very important for a small town. So hopefully we can get everyone to participate and say they live here in Highland Beach. So with that, thank you.
Our attorney report?
The legislature's in session, so mind your wallet, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, there being no further business, I call for a motion to adjourn the meeting at 4:39 p.m. I need a motion.
Make the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Go ahead, Darren. Go ahead. I have to go too.
Now let's see what he wants to write about.
Whoops.